Good to go? Yep. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Community Preservation Committee meeting of December 3rd, 2025. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which extends the Governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting will be conducted both in person and virtually via Google Meet. We're also being recorded by SMAC for presentation at a later time, according to their schedule. To join the meeting online, you can type in meet.google.com/GQT-IYQY-PDZ, all small letters. Or to join the meeting by phone, you can call 401-326-4356 with a PIN of 846-269-843 and the pound sign. And with that, I will entertain a motion to open the meeting. So made and seconded here in the room. It being a virtual hybrid meeting, we'll do roll call votes on everything. I'll start online. Dwight?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Larice?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. First up on our agenda, this came up, we have applicant's request for reconsideration on State Theater. John Stagnone had asked us if he could have a few minutes, and we said you can have a few minutes. We have a very busy agenda tonight, John, so I will apologize in advance in case I get a little ambitious in cutting people off, but I do want to get through the whole agenda.
Yep.
John, if you could focus on what's changed about your proposal and why you think it's more feasible than what we had presented earlier and the committee voted against, then we'd appreciate it. But introduce yourself and take the stand.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Stagnone, President of Friends of the State Theater. Also here with me is our treasurer, William Manberg. As the chair mentioned, we're looking for the reconsideration. What we're asking for reconsideration for is our previous application asked for funds for purchasing and restoration. So our new application or revised application is looking for what we're referring to as matching money of $200,000. We're looking to apply for a Mass Cultural Facilities grant that requires a match 1-to-1. We can't, for that grant match, you can't use other state money, which is all our money that currently that the Friends of the State Theater has is matched money from the Commonwealth. So we can't use that as a match. CPC funds are able to use for a match. So we had got, all our information still stands that we've already submitted for the other full budget when we were looking for the $2 million. So like I said, our main focus now is control of the building and the property, and then from there to move forward. But so in part of the summary here that we sent in the budget. I don't know why it keeps bouncing back, but we sent in estimated budgets and revenues. The CPC money does a lot of good things in the community, a lot of life quality and things that benefit the community. This project here, besides adding quality of life to the community, also has a return on investment when it's fully operational. So one of the other documents we have here that we supplied is the Massachusetts Coastal Resource Information System. The theater is listed here as an asset, and it was submitted to the state by the Historical Commission back in 1987. So the significance is architectural, performing arts, and recreation was the basis for that. So, and as the committee knows, there's already, the Historical Commission, actually on 2 different occasions this year, has voted to support our previous request So I would suspect a little lower dollar amount that doesn't change. So in part of the new information that we get provided to you is part of the construction budget, and because a lot of questions came around fundraising, can you actually make this work and stuff? And so we wanted to share with people that the Friends of the State Theater, besides all the work we have done to stabilize the building and raising money and all that other stuff and all our other studies, we shared with you the Nesson Group, the financing and feasibility report that was created by the Nesson Group, a consultant that we had hired. They helped us outline potential places for funding and things that we need to do, and basically, as long as we did some of the things that they recommended, they said that this is feasible. That obviously has to be updated because this is an older report. But we also we shared with you is all the other grants, potential grants that we had found through Stonehill College's nonprofit arm. They let us use their computers and database, and we did a search looking for foundations that specifically supported the arts. So we shared all that with you. So we want everybody to know is that there is a process in place. It's not just, a gut feeling on our part that, we can do this. We have gone and done, hired the consultants and done some legwork ahead of time or whatever. So we just wanted to share with that because I know there's some concern about whether you can get there or not. One of the other things we shared with you is a company, Switech Studios. They're an architectural restoration, and they kind of went through and gave us a bunch of different scenarios on, potentials. One is the full restoration, then partial restorations and things like that, and there was some numbers associated with it. They're actually out in New York. There's two companies, this group here, and then Green is the name, I think of the rest of the name of the company. I think they're out in New York too, and they specialize in theater restorations. But both of them, we've had quotes from, have some feedback from on the restoration and stuff. Green came through our architect in Switech, found us on the internet or whatever, and they actually flew out from New York and met with us and took a walk through the theater and put together a proposal. So one of the other things we have included as well is a letter from Spectacle Live. Pete Lally is the president. I met with him and his dad years ago. They're still interested. What they do is actually do the programming of theaters. So there's a couple of ways that, we would run the theater is we could, hire somebody to run it, or we can, hire a company like Spectacle Live. So the last thing is I mentioned to the chair and Barry, I'm not sure if the information got passed on, but what we started doing since the committee's last meeting is I've met or talked with and had a Zoom meeting with Mass Development to talk about financing for the purchase of the property. Since then, from there I picked up is I had to find a bank that works with Mass Development and we can do this stuff. South Shore Bank, who I do a lot of business with, and where the Friends of the State Theater has their funds, works with Mass Development. I had a meeting with them as well. We talked on that, and now we're in the process of setting up a joint meeting next week. So Mass Development, South Shore Bank, and Friends of the State Theater, and then from there we're going to set up a meeting to come out to town and walk the downtown. So we're getting trying to get all our ducks in a row and trying to get the financing to make the purchase. The Friends of the State Theater still feels very strongly that this is a huge benefit to the town. It would be a bad thing for it to go away, and once it is gone, there is no replacing that theater itself. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think that covers all the new information. And like I said, we shared a lot of information with you on budgets and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
Thanks, John. Any questions from the committee? Mr. McCarron?
Yes.
Was that a question? Did you want a question? I saw something pop on your screen.
No, I didn't do anything.
Oh, okay, that's just, maybe you made a noise. John Lenahan has joined. Any questions online from Dawn, John, or Dwight? Any here in the room?
I have one. Since the building commissioner has condemned the building, does the restoration that you're predicting going to remove that condemnation?
Yeah, so based on everything we've been told by our attorneys and other people, there's been other buildings that have been condemned throughout the, or whatever, and it just doesn't, because it's condemned doesn't mean you can't be fixed or whatever. And, when you look at the letters, the violation was a zoning violation, not a structural deficiency. The gentleman was using it for a warehouse. All that stuff has been removed. There was a dumpster there a week or so ago. He had a dumpster full of material out there that he's removed or whatever. Plus, there's been trucks there. So our advice is that as soon as that violation is fixed, then it's not an issue any longer. And obviously, the Friends of the State Theater, we've always said through the Historical Commission and every other meeting that our intention is always to work with the fire department and things. And if they would like a working fire alarm put inside the building, that is something we could work on doing as well. And obviously, one of the first things we want to do is take care of the graffiti and stuff that adds to the blight of the downtown. When we had control of the building, I always took care of it, but we don't have control of the building. So yeah, no, with the building being condemned, our legal counsel is telling us no, it's not an issue, and that if we get control of the building, we can that can be all rectified.
The question I would have, John, in addition, thank you, Rich, for asking that. Have you had any further conversations with the Board of Selectmen and/or the town manager and/or the town building department? I mean, any of these folks on board that would come here and tell us we should be doing this?
I have not talked to them. I've written to the town manager and offered to sit down and have a talk, and he actually, took my suggestions and said they were very thoughtful, and he would get back to me, and has never followed through. So, but, like I said, at the end, for us, this is, is an important thing. We're asking for matching funds, which, if this is approved tonight, then we will, the deadline for the Mass Cultural Grant is the 11th, I believe I said it was. I would start working on that right now, starting tomorrow, and we would move forward with that. And then, like I said, we're working on funding, and then we start talking. We have free pro bono legal services to help us with the acquisition through Nixon and Peabody, and we would work with them to start engaging the owner.
Okay. John Lenahan. You're on mute. You're still muted. And you are still muted. Oh, there you go.
Thank you. John, what is this grant for specifically?
Yeah, so the Mass Cultural Grant, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called a facilities grant, and it can be used towards acquisition or restoration and things like that. And
No. I've gotten a number of these grants, so it can't be used, for any number of things. It needs to be specifically based on what you apply for.
Yeah,
And what are you applying for?
acquisition.
$400,000?
No, we're looking, well, this is the down payment. On the application, Mass Development is a loan. We get financing. That's why we're having meetings with Mass Development and South Shore Bank.
I don't know, in my experience, Mass Development doesn't give out much in terms of grants. They give no or low interest loans.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, is actually using probably a tax exempt bond purchase or financing, and that's what the meetings are about. So that's what Mass Development's involvement is in this. Mass Cultural Grant, I know, works If we've got it, we'd go through mass development, but we're looking for the down payment and then finance the balance. And the rents from the property to pay the debt service on the loan.
And how much do you suspect they'll be looking for to purchase?
We've always said it was about 1.6 million, without seeing the leases and having an appraisal. That's, we're just going, the owner paid 1.45 back in 2016. So that's kind of where we're ballparking it right now. But until we get into it and get an appraisal and things like that, we're not, we haven't talked to the owner, so, but that's what we're estimating.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So then, I guess to cut to the chase here, does anyone on the committee want to make a motion that we should reconsider our vote from November 5th, I think it was? Hearing none, John, I think I'll again thank you for all your efforts over the years. I fully support the concept that this building could be such a big benefit to the town. I think as we talked last time, the committee just is concerned that we're throwing money at something that probably isn't gonna happen.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, thank you,
Thanks for your
John.
time. Thanks for your efforts.
Okay, next up on the agenda, we have project updates. And we have a request from Bill McCrisky to sneak in here, but I'm gonna look, the update on the Hanson School playground?
No, that's delayed till next week.
That's delayed, okay, in which case we'll go right to Joe McCrisky. I'm gonna skip the Halloran and the other one for a minute. Joe wanted to get out of here.
I'll be right out of here. I've got
Real
another
quick,
meeting to
Joe.
go to. You'll be very quick. And I'm not even going to sit down, folks. Thank you very much. I was asked about the article for the hand tub, about possibly paring it down. I know that you folks were looking to save some money. I know that this is the smallest appropriation that you've been requested to fund. And I would ask, I would say, I did explain to my friend White on the pairing, is the price that I got for the 150 that we went with is the higher price to get the restoration done. There is a possibility that somebody else will be bidding on it, but I don't have that guarantee. So the 150 would be for the higher price, and if that's the only bidder, that's what it would be. There's a possibility that another bidder will come in and it'd be just under 100, but again, their right straight out would work right now. So they may not have the bandwidth to even bid on it. So I would respectfully ask that you allow me to keep the 150 into that line item. The picture that I put up there, I wanted you to see that we're not talking about doing things. We're getting things done at the Historical Society. You see a picture of a ramp truck that's there. That ramp truck we just secured. I embarked on a fundraising project, and that flag truck, some of you may remember, was from 2008 when we had that's the United States flag truck. That truck and that program has been decreased substantially. I was given the opportunity to purchase the truck, went on a fundraising binge, and we got the money and then some. We got enough money to, it's been sitting, so it's right now being fixed over Allegiance Trucks in Walpole. We have a trailer that we're gonna dispose of. I hopefully on the boat tomorrow night dispose of a trailer, which will give us a little bit more resources to get that truck up. And we're gonna be taking the fire truck program that you folks funded, and we're gonna be taking that further. When we met Jay Leno, I mentioned to you earlier, that it opened up a whole new area of that truck. It's being invited to events. Now we'll be able to take it out, travel further distance.
Okay,
And
I'm gonna cut you off though,
Yeah.
because one question,
Yep.
timing of, if we give you this money, how long is it gonna take to get this thing done?
it's short order. I mean, because they told me if I get the funding, the higher price one, he said he's ready to go. But if something happens that we get cut,
you know, and the second guy, I can't say that. And we might not even get somebody to
So
bid.
short order, one goal here, in my mind, if we did approve this, would this likely be completed for the 300? To be part of those
Towards the
festivities?
end, I think it could be, yeah. It's not
Somewhere
as-
in that year, but it might not.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I was throwing out some dates and, you know, time, because it's not as extensive as the fire truck. And that happened during COVID. And that
Okay.
guy's turning trucks around in a
With
year
that,
now.
does anyone else on the committee have a question for Joe? Appreciate the input, Joe.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
We'll take that into consideration.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Gary, we do have the update on Halloran, or did we push that, or is that, I saw Matt was online, I assume there he is.
Yeah, Matt is here
Are we
online.
still gonna do
Yeah.
that, or?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Matt.
All right, cool. I'll keep it quick. The security camera is installed. The town has access to it. It's all up and running. I received final invoices, so that should be in the next warrant. So we are good to close out that project. And I just want to say one big last thank you to the committee for the support on that project. All the residents who supported at town meeting. It's been really nice to see the amount of use that court has already received. So it's been really nice to see. And then I'll be really quick. I just want to give one big thank you to our recreation representative, Clarice, who this is her last meeting. And just thank her for all her work during my time and before my time here. She has a passion for this community like no one else. And she's played a big part in Allen Park and a lot of other projects. And I will miss working with her dearly on this committee, but I will get to see her a couple times a week as she still runs classes for us.
We will all miss Larry. She's been, and we talked about this last month, she's been a very valuable member of this committee for even longer than I've been on it.
Yeah.
And I've been on and off it for a long time, so. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Matt, so all the invoices are in?
Yeah, so the last invoice should be in next week's warrant. Yeah, I checked with the electricians, they're all set, and with New Era, so everything's good. So we're ready to sign that paperwork and close it up.
Very good,
Okay.
thank you. Good
Yeah.
job, by the way, thank you for.
Yeah, no, it's a great job, Matt. Thank you for your efforts in getting it, because that's another one. Had some issues up front, you handled them very well, so. Glenn Echowack, you gonna,
Yep, there's a little bit of movement on that. We did get a quote from, well, two things. We didn't just get a quote from Wildlands Trust. Their board met and agreed to accept the conservation restriction, which was not a sure thing at the outset.
yeah.
So what they've done is they've given us a worksheet, giving us the cost for them to hold that restriction. And the bottom line is that it will cost $12,048.92. And it's a perpetual restriction, it's a one-time fee.
So what's next on it? Do we,
Next on the agenda for that would be to actually finalize the
agreement?
restriction.
Good. And we had more than that, we had plenty of money set aside for it. That's actually more in line with what we thought it might cost.
Yeah, we had asked for $30,000 to do this.
If I recall, we only spent about 12,000 on the original. So that's good.
So with money coming back.
Good job getting that done. So I'm also gonna, next on the agenda is our discussion on CPA articles, but as usual, I'm also gonna move the treasurer's report up, because I've got an update on some of the numbers, and I know it went out late today, but we'll run through it. Barry, if you can throw it up on the screen.
Yep.
A lot of it is just an update to what we had looked at. There was some questions back and forth. We did have a meeting that we talked about at our other November meeting with the town. We got some additional information, and we've been able to actually work through some of that, so if we can throw that up, and we'll take a quick run through the revised CP2. And I'm just gonna skip right to the third page, Barry. We'll skip over the table of contents and just run through this stuff. So this is the revised, you can see the column in the middle of the page is the revised revenue section. We had mentioned this in November that the town did find $311,000 of interest income that was missing off of the original. It could post it to the wrong account. I think they posted it to the wrong account on the CP2. The good news is we got the money and it's in one of the accounts. I show an adjusted column over there where the 311 is actually on the earnings on investment line, where they only had 4,765, and I think it's just flip-flop with the other tax liens line there, so not a big deal. I've got a column on the far right here, though, is that, in my mind, I think the CP2, and this is my opinion, and Biz disagrees, and we're going to have follow-up with DOR to clarify. I still think the 141,918, which was a transfer from the 5040 fund to the 3014 fund, does not constitute revenue. It's a simple transfer that should net out to zero. So my opinion, and I'm not the expert on municipal finance, she is, but I'm leaving it with the committee that we think there's a discrepancy there of the 141, which we had talked about at the last meeting. So I don't need to go through all the other lines, it's just that. If we go to the next page, which is the expenditures, there was some changes here. I'm gonna skip to the middle section with the debt service. She corrected the debt service. She realized they had put the budget in instead of the actual. Not a big deal, we got that fixed, that's in there correctly. But on the expenditure line, I'm still not clear of, she's reporting 888,995.33 split between open space and historic. I've gone through Munis and I've pulled out, and we looked at every single invoice was on there, and they're included in this, even though we're not gonna look at it, and it shows $1,127,000 in payments on our projects. I don't know where her 888 is coming from. In fact, it's changed a couple of times since the original, so that even the historic number, which was the railroad station bond that we paid off, which again, wasn't a new expenditure, we would just transfer money between the accounts, is changed to be a different number. It was 310,000, it's now 344. The real breakout is shown in the column called adjusted. We spent 161,000 on open space, 106,000 on historic resources, and 859 on recreation. So I think we're understating the expenditures by 238,000. The administrative expenses are all okay. So the total fund balance, which the CP2 that we had at the last meeting, even though I didn't show it, we talked about it, was out of balance because that number didn't agree. The 8,872,000, the bottom line, total fund balance under the revised column, was out of sync. She then corrected it, which changed some of those numbers, but it leaves us, in my mind, we're off $380,000. The 141 overstatement of revenue and a 238,000 understatement of expenditures. Coincidentally, Barry and I were going through some of this information this morning, and I hung up and I took the dogs out for a walk, and the light went off in the Marblehead when I finally realized it's 380,000. If you recall last month, one of the sheets I put up, there was a $380,000 transfer into the CPA fund for the balance of the Town Hall Park project. The town portion of that is $380,000. I thought that was unusual, but they transferred $380,000 into the account, which would mean it would be sitting there as part of our fund balance. So I can't say that's what's wrong. I've got to confirm that with Biz, but my guess is that's what's caused this, and then as they try to back into the number, they ended up with some weird stuff.
But
So-
again, if it's a transfer, it shouldn't show as income or expense.
It's not anyway. That came from the general fund. I was surprised they did that. They didn't tell us they were
That's what came
doing
from
that.
outside the CPA.
I mean, it's kind of the opposite of what happened with Rich on the Capen project, where we got money from outside, and they kept that money outside of the CPA funds, and then they showed the expenditures outside of the CPA funds. Well, this time they're doing the opposite. They're taking general fund revenue and putting it into the CPA fund. I don't know why we would do it differently. We can follow up more on that, but I at least felt better when I finally got the number to come out to something I could make sense out of, the $380,000.69, which is a rounding issue somewhere. So that being what it is, we'll have that follow up and see, but it seems awful suspicious to me that happened. So on the next page, which is the fund balances, and this is the important stuff that I wanted to look at. And you can see this is just that section right off of the CP2, and I'm showing 23, 24, and 25 again. I'm showing that variance as coming out of the undesignated reserve line, because it's got to come out of somewhere. after realizing the 380, what it might be, I think it really probably comes off of the second line, the fund balance reserve for expenditures at $4,054,000. And to us, it really doesn't matter which line is coming off, it's coming out, but
As long as it's not
I've been
coming out of
trying
the
to
reserve
tie
accounts.
these individual lines out to the project detail that we work on all the time. And this year was the first time I was able to tie out the top line, the $1,150,000. We talked about that last meeting, and we have it again in here. I can get pretty close to the $4,054,000, but not all the way there. The next three lines are the open space, historic resource, and community housing fund reserves. We set aside 10% every year. On the original CP2, those numbers were different, but on the revised one, they actually are back to being exactly what they were in FY 2024, and that makes no sense. We set aside 10%, I think it was $112,000 into each one of them. We saw entries for the projects we closed out last year going into them. I don't know why they haven't changed. We had sent a note to the town asking some questions, we got some follow-up, but that money only flips between there and the undesignated, so again, it doesn't change our balance, but it's good that we're getting more clarity on the detail lines. It's just a little frustrating that we can't get a specific answer.
Well, the numbers for all three reserve accounts, there's no way they should be the same.
No,
from one
they
year to the
shouldn't.
next.
No, we didn't book the reserves this year, nor did we take the stuff out of the reserves that we should have, but, again, this is just CP2 reporting, so, but next page, Barry, is, scroll up a little bit. So, based on the CP2, the funds available to us as of June 30th, 2025, so 6 months ago, 5 months ago, the three category reserves total $1,488,553, and that's just right under the revised column. I just added up the 252, the 501, and the 726. And then I didn't actually, it says adjusted, but it's not the adjusted undesignated fund balance, the $1,881,000. So as of June 30th, 2025, we have $3.3 million in cash available to be used for future projects, which is only one of the sources of fundings that we'll see, but that's an important one, so I wanted to highlight that number again. And in fact, after I realized the 380, if I took the 380 out of the 4,054,000 line, which is where I now believe it is, but this morning when I was doing this, I hadn't reached that conclusion, that 1,881 would be the same. So that's, we have the $3.3 million. Next line, Barry. Next page. So this is, I think, a new page. You've heard us talk about the trial balance. Biz uses the trial balance a lot. And typically the trial balance is the Bible for accountants. It's their general ledger trial balance. It comes right out of Munis. When Barry and I met with her early in November, we got copies of the trial balance for each of the two funds. And there's a lot of detail on them. I took them and combined them here, and I'm gonna walk through what we have. And you can see that the primary asset we have is cash. And the combined balance in FY 2025 is $8,877,278. So almost $9 million in cash. And then there's the accounts receivable, which is the dribs and drabs of stuff that people still owe us from the different years that they were billed for their surcharge. This is another one I'd look at and say, I don't know why those numbers, it seems suspicious to me that none of those numbers changed from last year. You would have thought either some of them, somebody paid it, or, but whatever, but $30,000 or $40,000 is irrelevant to us in the big picture. So you can see that we got almost $9 million, and last year we had pretty much $8.5 million, so it went up by $300,000, which is the net of the new revenues that we received this year less our expenditure. Makes perfect sense. Below that, Barry, if you scroll a little further, you see some liabilities. Again, it's small dollars, advanced tax payments. If somebody paid their taxes in advance and it really applied to the following year, they can't book it as revenue because we haven't earned it yet. We don't earn it, so they stick it in an advanced tax payment account. And deferred revenue, I'm not exactly sure what those were for, but it's money that technically we aren't guaranteed that money yet, but they've received it, so they're holding it, and it's a liability. Again, it's $44,000 out of $9 million, not worth worrying about. It's one of the details that the accountants will take care of. Suspicious to me that the number didn't change, because people didn't pay it 2 years in advance.
Right.
It can hit, because of the timing of, you know, we closed the year in June 30th, but people sometimes pay stuff before the year's over. You'll get a little bit of that, but not 2 years in advance, but we'll try to work with that with Biz and figure that out. The next page,
Just before we go to that, I mean, by
Yeah.
the same token, that the page we saw before with the fund balances and the three reserve funds were exactly the same to the penny
right,
from one year to the next,
Yeah.
which is impossible. Is it possible?
it's not logical, no.
No. And the reason it is because, for one thing, they never booked the three reserves that were required to put in every
Yeah,
year.
as part of our budget, we set aside 10% of each one of those reserves. And we also allocate, as part of the budget, we typically allocate projects, but the biggest one we've had for almost the whole time we've been in existence, the debt service on Monaco, which is $75,000 a year still, should be booked against the open space reserve. So the open space reserve should have gone down by 75 grand and then back up by 112, et cetera, and there was other stuff. So the numbers should change, they shouldn't stay static.
Right. There's activity both in and out of all.
My
the reserve
concern with
funds.
that, go back to the prior page. My concern with that, since you brought us here, Barry, the community housing reserve at 726. Given that we haven't spent a lot of money on community housing, we need to be reserving it to stay compliant with the law. If we're not reserving that 10%, we're not in compliance with the CPA Act. So they have to book that money. I don't know why it's not there.
It's also what town meeting voted to do when they.
It's also what town meeting voted to do. It's clear as day in the warrant and has been every year. I don't know what happened here. This, again, we pulling this stuff together over the last couple of days, so. That's enough detail. The next page is, again, this is the other side. Now, this is the trial balance versus the CP2. And the thing I like here, and this is where, and I've talked about business cleaning up the accounts, if you look at FY 2025, those numbers represent exactly what's on the CP2. So it tells me what's in Munis is what's on the CP2. And that's a big step. We've never been able to make that connection before. We've always just had to trust it. You can see the prior year, the numbers are all over the board, everything was in these expenditure control and encumbrance control and revenue control. Couldn't make a lot of sense. I would still like, and we've asked numerous times, the detailed transactions that make up these accounts. Because with that, I could then answer specifically questions like my $380,000. But it is what it is. The good news here is that number ties out to the CP2. And again, that 4,054,000 number that we see, I think it includes I think it includes the 380,000 that came out of the general fund. It would make sense for it to be reserved for future expenditure. It just doesn't make sense to me that it's included in the CPA fund. Next slide. This is where, in this slide, the $1,150,000, that's the reserve for encumbrances. That's the same number we saw on the CP2 and in the trial balance. Here's the breakdown project by project. That's a big step that we can finally look at that and see that. If we could do the exact same thing for the 4,054,000, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Because we would have resolved it already, but, so that's what we're working towards. That's why I included this slide. Next slide, Barry. And I also wanted, some of this information was also in the November 5th deck, but this way it's all back together as part of one conversation. This is the projects in progress. We've looked at this slide any number of times. It obviously changes over time as projects get closed and open. But swim down at the bottom, because what I really want to talk, well, actually, before you do, Barry, I'm sorry. You got the project, the Munis number, the project name, what category it belongs to, the approval amount that we recommended in town meeting approved, the life-to-date expenditure. The difference between those two numbers is the funds available, which in theory is what your reservation should be. You've reserved this money for that. And then I added on a column just to show this is my AP activity for FY 2025 we saw it in the earlier slides, the 1,127,000 as a total. Here it's by project. At the back of the deck, we're gonna see it by invoice, which we looked at last month anyway. The key here, if we flip down to the bottom so that we can see the totals, is you can see I have 5,026,000 in the third column of numbers. That's the funds available on all of our open projects. If you take that 5 million plus the 1,150,000 that we just looked at on the prior slide, which has already been encumbered. Actually, no. If you take the 4,054,000 that was on the CP2 and in the trial balance and add in the 1,150,000 of encumbrances, you come up with about $5.2 million. I come up with $5 million, but one of the keys here, so we're within a couple $100,000, but when you look at the last three projects on here, the $5 million I'm saying includes the $820,000 for the town hall projects that was approved last May. It includes the Glen Echo Pavilion of 180, and it even includes the 115 for the Bird Farm bond foundation work that was only approved in October. That would not have been in Biz's report because her cutoff was June 30th. The other two projects are in her totals. So if you take my 5 million and you subtract out the 115,000, you're down to about 4.9 million. If you take her 4 million plus her 1,150,000, you're at 5.2. That 300,000 is pretty much the 380,000. So now we're within $100,000, and that's really what I've been trying to reconcile to, if I can get the detail out of them. But what it importantly tells us is that that $3,300,000 that I showed earlier that we have available to us as of June 30th, 2025, already takes into consideration the $820,000 we're spending on town hall, the 180 we're spending on Glen Echo, and the 115 that we're spending on Bird Farm. That's important because we have that 3.3 million, and then we have fiscal year 2026 revenue, which will be probably around another $1.5 million. But we've already accounted for the expenses coming out of fiscal year 2026's budget, those three projects. So I now have 3 million free plus $1.5 million, so we now have $4.8 million available to us before we even take into consideration the fiscal year 2027 budget. Assuming the fiscal year 2027 budget is going to be over $1 million, it should be close to $1.5 million. We really are sitting on about $6 million as we talk about our projects tonight. That was the number. Without this kind of detail, I could never be sure that that $1.1 million was already accounted for. So I didn't know whether we had 4 million or 5 million. And I feel a lot better that I can now confidently say we do have roughly $6 million. Is that a question? I heard a bunch.
Yes,
Mike?
Go ahead, Mike.
So, I'm trying to follow these numbers. I'd like to cut down to a bottom line based on our finances that we thought we had when we were concerned about spending all the money that we had. Do these figures change that? No, we didn't spend the 2 million originally. Do these figures, have they changed in a way that affects that conversation?
Yes, to the good. Last month when we talked, we had the same 3.3 million. That number hasn't really changed as of June 30th, 2025. What I wasn't sure of last month was how much of fiscal year 2026's money was going to be available to us. I knew we'd have roughly $1.5 million in revenue, but I was also thinking in the back of my mind, we had $1 million of expenditures and $300,000 of debt service. Now, I didn't show the debts. The debt service was one of the lines on the encumbrances I meant to point out. So all of the expenditures for fiscal year 2026 are already accounted for, and we still have $3.3 million available. Plus another $1.5 million for revenue in fiscal year 2026 puts us at about $4.8 million. The projects we're going to talk about when we finish this discussion for fiscal year 2027, and we got another $1 million coming in fiscal year 2027. So we're really closer to 6 million than to the 4.5, 5 that I was talking about last month.
Can I ask a quick question? So if this includes the Bird Street project that was just approved in October, does that mean we don't have to budget for it next year?
We do not have to budget for that next year. It's already been approved by town meeting. It had nothing to do with what I'm showing here, but just logically,
Yes, it's already accounted for, we don't have to.
it's already accounted for.
Budget for next year's
Yeah.
budget.
One of the things that has been confusing to us in the past is projects that are approved in special town meetings in the fall kind of escape the budget process.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons I think I'd find it difficult to tie out numbers sometimes, until it finally dawned on me, I gotta go back and look at those numbers as well. They come out of that budgeted annual reserve, which is part of the undesignated fund. So the money is there when we do the budget, but the project isn't.
Yep.
And it's almost like you have to go back and restate the budget, but we don't do that.
That's what Biz meant when she answered my question. about-
Yes, that is what Biz, it's part of, we get a little bit out of just listening sometimes to Biz, and I can make a connection, and that's part of how we got to this point, that I could show this.
Yep.
So yeah, I apologize for throwing a lot of numbers, but a lot of this, I put these charts together as I'm trying to figure out what we're doing, and then it clicked. I mean, I was walking the dog today, and some of these numbers said, wait a second, that's 380, is this 380? And it just kind of made it all come together, and made me feel more sure that we are indeed looking at a pot that's more like $5.5 to $6 million from which we can make our decisions tonight.
Well, you had a revelation, taking a walk with Dwight one time, and realized what the money's worth.
Well, a little bit, yeah. I actually went on that walk hoping to, no, actually, yeah, no, that was when I talked to Eric, and
That's it, Eric.
we said, but the revelation came from what you had told me about your money getting pushed to the side, and I said, wait a second, I gotta ask Eric, was there a grant? And in fact, there was a grant, and yeah. You know, a lot of times, Barry and I talk about some of this stuff a lot, and Dawn, you and I can still talk about some of this stuff over the next couple of months. It helps to have just, you spew it out, and someone asks a question, and something clicks, and say, yeah, that makes the connection. I mean, the disadvantage I have, that Dawn's gonna have, that we have as a committee, is we don't have access to the system. So when I have a question, I can't just go into the system and look up a number and prove it. I kind of have to bang around and, or whatever. We got there, which is the good thing. So if we can go to the next page.
Oops. Sorry.
This, again, this is just a recap. We saw the same slide last month, the 141,918 that is part of revenue that I don't think should be in revenue. I changed it only to show what I had the project numbers, but not the project names on it last time. I had the account description was over here, so yes, you could tell what it was, but it's a lot easier if we look at it, if we know what project it is.
So these are all the closeouts that we've been doing.
Those were the closeouts we did. Yeah, we knew what the $141,000 was. We recognized those numbers. Once I saw that, I sent it to Barry. Barry, you recognize these numbers? Because to me, this looks like it's all our closeouts, and that surely is what it was. So again, that's a good thing. The plus side of this is we're getting more detail out of the town. The minus side is it's a little bit of work sometimes to figure out. And then I included here the 3 pages of all the transactions. We don't need to talk about them, but if you flip the next 3 slides, it's just the 1,127,000, which is the detailed transactions. We showed it by project on one slide, and we showed it by category on one slide. So it's all here, but it's all in one package for everybody. With that, I'll say any questions. Dwight, did I cover enough to answer your question? Because that's an important question.
Yeah, well, because based on before, the concern was if we okayed every project, we would use up all our money.
We were looking at $4.2 million and maybe only having 4 to 4.5. That was a
Now,
big
does that
concern.
include this, once we take the state theater out, does that 4 million include the 2 for the state theater?
No,
Or,
the state theater was already out of it. We knocked that one
okay,
out.
so what's left, there's a request for 4 million and you're we're estimating we have 6.
Yeah, so some, even if we broadly say somewhere between 5.5 and 6, we have a much bigger cushion there than we thought a couple weeks ago. That was the whole point of this.
Yeah, thank you, that's what I was asking.
I just had, thank you for all that, I appreciate it. The DOR meeting that you indicated, you're gonna go back and do that, when is that gonna take place? Is that any time,
Biz had said she was gonna call in the DOI to give us some training
okay,
in the spring.
this spring?
Barry and I talked about this morning. I said, you know, Barry, why don't you call the guy at the DOR and see when he can come in?
Okay,
Why wait? Let's talk about it when we have all this information. The CP2 is fresh. I'll make myself available to do something because I can help lead that conversation.
okay.
Not that I wanna take over what Dawn's gonna be doing, but I wanna help us get there.
And the other question I had is for 2027, when do you get the final results as far as what we're gonna get as far as funding is concerned?
Well, we can make up our own budget.
Right,
And I actually made up a template and sent it to Dawn and Barry last night.
okay.
We can take a quick look at that, Barry, if you wanna pull it up. I know you've already added some stuff very preliminarily, but I figured rather than make Dawn start from scratch on this, I used last year's template. And one of the schedules that was new last year that I think I made even better this year is my roll forward, which is an important part, because one of the struggles I've had, which means we as a committee have had with the finances, is recognizing that we're talking about fiscal year 2027 projects. We just got a sheet of paper, the CP2, that tells us where we stood as of last June. There's a year in between there that we don't really know, and how is that taken into consideration? So I put on my financial budgeting hat and said, well, the best thing to do is take where you knew you were on June 30th, 2025, and roll it forward to where you think you will be on June 30th, 2026, and that's what you build your budget off.
Right, okay, let me put it up.
Was this another dog walk or?
No, this was more sitting at home with a beer late at night. But I had done the roll forward last year, but I wanted to make it easier to understand, because I put a bunch of stuff on it.
Yeah, just-
So this is the budget template that I'll credit Bill Rowe, because it's the template he's always used. I may have tweaked some formatting stuff here, but this follows what Bill Rowe did for us from the very get-go. And this is how Dawn's gonna build the budget, Dawn and Barry. The community preservation surcharge, we already have a CP1. I don't have the actual for FY 2025, Barry does. Then we show the estimate for FY 2026 and an estimate for FY 2027. And that comes out of the assessing department and what they expect to bill. It is just a number. Last year, and I'm gonna go from memory here, Barry and I talked about this
If you
earlier
want, I have
today.
it on another screen.
Well, actually, yeah, this screen has the draft template for FY 2027, then it's got this reserve roll forward that I was just talking about, and then the FY 2026 draft.
You want me to put it up? on the other
Yeah,
side?
if you flip over to FY 26, well, no, it's just another tab on that same sheet, Barry. You're thinking of the one where you put in numbers, you don't need to do that.
Okay.
Unless you prefer to do, you can do that too.
Hang on.
Carl, I pre-populated some of the data.
We're going to go to to last year's, okay. Let me share this piece.
I think the important piece here for the committee to look at is really gonna be, we can show you the draft budget template, which is what will end up going to town meeting, but the roll forward, I think that just adds a lot of clarity to what we're trying to do. Because the first thing Barry got, he called it, he said, your numbers are different than business. I said, yeah, but you gotta go back and look at why it's different, because you're looking at a different year. I'm taking in, it shouldn't be what we saw on the CP2, that those numbers stay the same one year to the next, because we know there's activity. So this is last year's budget, the FY 26. It says draft because the spreadsheet was built before town meeting. But you had the FY 24 actual, CP1 was in
Yeah,
green
actually, it
rolls.
should say 2025 on the draft date.
Well, FY 25 annual meeting, but it's the FY 26 budget that's being presented at the FY 25 annual
I'm just
meeting.
talking about up in the upper right corner.
Yeah, I probably didn't change the 2024 date.
Right.
Little things like that you buy you on spreadsheets. I did wipe it out on the new template so you could put in your own, but okay. Yeah, because this was done in 2025. So you can see the CP1 was $1,006,000, you just lost it.
Hold on, I just lost it.
The good news is that tomorrow morning, after we take our votes tonight, if we make definitive votes on every proposal, Barry can fill in and Don can review, the budget will be done.
So we have 9.7 million for 2026?
No. Save that question, because that's an important thing to think about, because it ties back to everything I just ran through in the presentation. And hopefully in a way that makes a lot more sense than when it's just seeing the numbers separate. But we knew the actual for FY '24 was $1,006,000. The FY '25 estimate was like we go a very conservative 1% growth. So it was 1,016 and then 1,026. The budget was set down, the line, well, you can't see it, but under there, where Barry's pointing, the budget was set at 1,007. Barry and I, we really should have just used the 1,026, but
We'll use that.
we didn't do
forward.
that.
We'll
The town
use-
did that and gave us the number, and it's like, why would you make it $20,000 difference, guys?
Right, this
It
number here
just
should be.
confuses anybody who's looking at the sheet.
Yeah.
Bill used to do the same thing, and I used to, and it's like, well, it doesn't really matter, they're done at different times. You know what, make it easy for people to see and understand. You can walk through this stuff if the numbers make sense. State match of 150. The reserve fund balances you see there, no, I don't have a date on there, but they're the beginning balance, so that should represent what we expected them to be on June 30th, 2025. Not what they were, the only ones we knew at the time, because this was done in February of 2025, the numbers would have been slightly different, but that's okay, it's a budget, we're projecting forward, we don't know exactly what they're gonna be, so we do it. And then down below it is the reservations and appropriations, and this is yeah, you can see the administrative at 4.99%, 5%, the reservations 10% per category. And it's tricky because now the 115, that's the 2026 budget. So it doesn't come into play on the CP2 because it's next year's CP2 where we should see that, even though we're already talking about the year after that.
Right, but these are the numbers that should have been added to the reserves from
No.
last year to this year.
No, you have to go back to the FY25 draft are the ones that should have been added to the CP22, which you can see if you go back, the revised draft, the next tab over, Barry. I think they're the 112,
This is 2025, next tab.
this one, yeah. So here's the budget format. So if you go down a little bit, you should see the appropriations and the reservations, I don't know, too far, but, oh, there they are, 112, the 112,430.
Those are the numbers.
That should have been added, plus or minus roll it up a little bit, you'll see the debt service that should have gone into each category.
Yep.
There's the 73,000, that is open space debt service for Glen Echo. Some of the numbers I know off the top of my head. Most of it's coming out of undesignated, but we talk about that every year, that's because where most of our money is. But anyway, here you have the 25 budget, the 26 budget, and now it's set up to do the 27. So let's go back to the 27 budget. And it's the same format, and all we gotta do is start plugging in the numbers when we get some of the numbers and show down below, Barry, where the new articles will go. You can see we'll just layer them in. I've already did the debt service. We know the debt service, because the debt schedules are set for the next 20 years or 15 years, however long they are. Until we do new borrowing, there's no changes to those schedules, so I layered them in by category already. So, I suggested to Barry, I threw it out there, that I would start with a budget of $1,150,000. We had $1,054,000, if you remember back on the earlier slide from the CP2 or from the trial balance. We had $1,054,000 in surcharges for 2025, but we're talking 2027. So if it went up 50 grand this year, and it goes up 50 grand next year, and 50 grand the year after, Barry's gonna do some math. I think he had a slightly lower number on your sheet, but whatever it's gonna be, you guys can talk about and review it. It really doesn't matter whether we budget $1,001,000 or $1,002,000 or $1,150,000. That's, the key is the committee sits down, looks at it and says, yeah, we all agree this is a reasonable number. $50,000 on the $1.5 million isn't gonna make any difference. We don't wanna budget exceedingly high, we don't wanna budget too much. My recommendation, we took the interest budget out this year, we didn't budget the interest in fiscal year 2026. I would put it back in fiscal year 2027, it's gonna be up to you guys. But only because, look what happened with CP2. The CP2 came out and there was no interest income on it. Well, if you didn't have a budget, someone might say, well, okay, it doesn't matter. But if you had a budget of 300 and it comes in at 0, someone's gonna say, hey, wait a second. Why don't, what happened here? Why didn't I get the 300 I was expecting? So, not 300,000, not putting it on the schedule, but that's the decision. And I think the committee should make the decision whether or not to include it. The town is gonna tell you, don't include, you don't need to do it, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. We always did it in the past. I went along with it last year, but because of this, I would recommend you include it. And it might not be 300, because in fiscal year 2027, maybe by then the Fed is gonna reduce some of these rates and we're gonna see reduced income, but there should be something there, just so that we know to look for it.
Yeah, we should be a conservative six-figure number.
Yeah,
That would,
right, question.
Yeah, maybe you answered this, but when you see the amount that's in reserve, let's say for housing, which it looked to me like was 700,000.
Yeah, it was 700, yeah.
If we were to then approve what the 800,000 for our current housing thing, would that immediately reduce that to nothing, or what's our policy for how do we draw on that as opposed to undesignated?
That's a good question, and it's totally up to the committee. What we would do, in fact, Barry, can we go back further up on this budget sheet? Further up, further,
the other direction.
yeah. So this is showing that, this is good, because now my roll forward says that on June 30th, 2026, I expect community housing to have $842,346. Can you see that number? Kind of in the middle of the page? So it works out great. So now when Barry layers in the articles down below, we know we got $800,000 in that category. We should put it in the community housing bucket. It is better for us to have money in the undesignated because we can use it for any category. Money sitting in those 3 reserves can only be used for that particular, it can be used for open space or recreation if it's in the open space reserve. It can be used for historic if it's in the historic. So we should try to use up that money. In the past, we were told that if I only had the 726 that we had last year, I couldn't put all of the 800 into the reserve, so you have to split it. When you start splitting stuff, it becomes almost impossible to track it. And I think it makes it harder on the town. So it's great that we have 800,000 plus. But again, we're also missing at least 112,000 in that account because she didn't put any in there in that 2025. But that's a great question. That's how this is supposed to work. You see what's in the reserves, you use up as much of the reserve as you can. The whole point of those reserves is to force communities to stay within the guidelines of at least 10% going to each of those major categories. If you're not recording it as a separate number, it would be almost impossible to tell that you're staying on target. But now let's go back, Barry, to where Rich's question was, because.
Is that at the top or at the bottom?
So Rich is showing the 9,942,000 and saying, that's how much money we have, but now that's how much I'm projecting we will have in FY 2020 on June 30th, 2026. Barry, if you can go to the next tab, the reserve roll for it. So again, this is repetitive information. I'm showing you the CP2 fund balances for 2022, 23, 24, 25. Just point of reference. It's the same information we looked at before, same information that's always been there. You can see FY 2025 is the 8,872,000 over, go down one line.
Sorry.
See the total, couple lines, yeah. That's the number we saw on the CP2, that's the number we saw on the trial balance. The number below it is just that number minus the 3 reserve accounts.
And we're questioning the reserve accounts because, as you.
Because they haven't changed.
They haven't changed from one year to the next, which.
So-
Right.
Then scroll down to where the roll forward work, right? So here, I guess you gotta come up a little bit still, probably yeah, okay. There's my 8,872,000. The highlighted line is the category reserves for the three categories plus what's in the undesignated fund. And that's my 8 million, that's my starting point that we saw on all the earlier slides. I'm now saying, so just a couple more rows down, Barry. You take that number, oh, you went too far. You add in the budgeted revenue that we saw from FY 2026 is $1,157,000. The projected expenditures for FY 2026 were $1 million. That was the 820 for the Town Hall Pocket Park and the 180 for Glen Echo. The debt service was $330,000. The admin expense was the 5%, which was $57,000. So based on that, we should have been, if that all happens, and that was based on, this is 2026, so that's already in the budget. So I'm projecting that in June 30th, 2026, we should be at the 8,642,000.
That's different than the 9.
Go back to the draft number, Barry, because yeah, that should have been the same number, I think.
This page?
Yeah.
9.
Why did that number change again?
Here's 8.6.
No. This is now, the 9942
Includes the,
is 2027. It's another year out, so we've added in the revenues. It's a great point, because that's why this gets so confusing, because you're jumping from across 3 different years trying to keep track of all these things. This roll forward puts it all in one
Out of
place.
that number will come whatever we spend this year, that will all be reduced by that amount. Right.
Well, the bottom line number will be, projected fund balance will depend on what we spend.
Yes, as well, right, as we spend the transactions and accounts payable, those numbers change, yeah.
Yeah, as we fill in these numbers down here, for whatever projects get approved, that will come out of this.
That will, yes. But so, the 9 million, Rich, is just a year out from the 8 million, well, it's 2 years out from the 8,872,000.
Right, assuming nothing gets
And
approved.
yes, we will have 9 million, but when we fill it in, go to the top of the reserve roll forward page, Barry. When we fill in that FY 2026 column, some of that will be reserved for encumbrances, some will be reserved for expenditures, some will be reserved for the 3 categories. So the total should be the 9 million when all is said and done, less whatever additional spending we put out there. So we kind of set this up so that we should be able to have a budget that obviously will be ready to be looked at in January and reviewed by the committee. Oh, okay, John?
I was just gonna, support your, stance on, allocating funds fully to each of the reserve accounts,
Yeah.
so that we have an accurate accounting, just like we did from the beginning of Glen Echo on open space.
Yeah, you have to, I mean, it's just, we'll ask the question why. Because the very first CP2 we got had some changes in those accounts. I don't know how they got changed back or why, other than I suspect they were having trouble balancing the CP2. And I think the trouble they were having was because of the $380,000 that came in from the general fund for the town hall project. And they were changing numbers to kind of figure out how to make it balance. And they made it balanced by changing the expenditures and including something in revenue, as opposed to recognizing, just, it's my guess, I don't know, but I think it's a pretty good guess, actually.
Yeah, and we've offered, to work with her.
You know, I got those updated numbers for the CP2 off of the DOR website because, as I said, the one I got from Biz didn't balance, so I knew it wasn't right. And on there, it literally talks about the town should prepare this, but they really should review it with the, of course, they said they should review it with the committee so that the committee understands what's on there. I think our argument might be they should review it with the committee so that we can help make sure it's right. Dwight, question?
I'm just prepared at this time to move on. I mean,
I think so. I think that's a great suggestion.
I think we can move on.
The big picture, exactly. We're more comfortable, we have a little bit more money than we thought a month ago. And the stage is set for what needs to be done for a budget. That, I didn't really mean to go into that, but a couple of the questions I thought could be better answered with specifics. So, with that, we will go back to item number 6 on the agenda, which is recommendations for CPA articles for ATM 2026. And how would you like to start on that, Barry? I know you included a sheet in here.
Yeah, I included a sheet which has all the projects that we're considering. I know that John Minahan had an excellent suggestion last time of how to prioritize, and maybe that's a good place to
Yeah, I
start.
like the must do, the should do, and the can do. Do we want to just randomly start off of this list based on the must do's? Do we want to go through the list? Given that we know we have enough money if we end up saying yes to everything, do we want to just run down the list in order? Just one suggestion, we could do that, instead of bouncing around, or we could start at the biggest projects and work our way down. Right?
Yeah, I will have a question for John. I mean, I appreciated his rank ordering last time, and if I recall, the first two, the bottom two were the fire truck and the golf course. And how, in your mind, if, given the extra money that we have, if that makes you as likely to lock some or either of those off? Just curious.
Are you asking me or John?
I'm asking John.
Okay.
I've got to go back and see them all in context, I guess.
Let me,
Barry, you want to put the sheet up?
yep. Hang on.
So here's the sheet with the 9 projects, and the total is $4,120,025.
Hang on, let me, yep. Although I need to change that, because based on the soccer fields, I should probably put in the total amount as opposed to just the first year.
Yeah, this total, you can see the Colts soccer field number is down to the 435.
Yeah. It's 827,275.
Did they agree to that?
To,
What that represented is they split the project over 2 years and said the first year would be this, the second year would be that. But that doesn't really change. We can't appropriate for fiscal year 2028 at this point. We'd still have to appropriate it out of the fiscal year 2027 budget. It doesn't matter that it's not gonna get spent till the next year. So I don't think it's a good idea to do that.
well, especially we have a little bit more money than we thought we had
And,
going into
and
it.
we can afford it, so yeah, I guess the 4 goes up to 4.5 million, so. And that's why we were so tight last month, because we weren't sure we had much more than 4.5 million to play with. So what else has changed here, Barry? You're showing the, is this a good time to bring Paul
Yeah,
into
that's
the
what I was
Paul?
just gonna say.
Paul Jaffoon is here, he was gonna
Oh,
talk
you may
about
wanna
the railroad
change what you were
depot.
gonna say, but-
60 seconds.
Paul, take a seat, identify yourself for the camera, and that'll be the first project we talk about.
Sure, I'll keep it brief, thank you. Thanks for having me. So originally, we came for,
$1,125,000 it looks like?
yeah, $1,125,000, which included exterior painting of the building and some of the cast iron columns and exterior painting on the building, if you will. So, like Mr. McCrisky said earlier, we had discussions with Mr. Castler and some other members and said, maybe we can pare it down a little bit because just because there's a lot of funding requests for this town meeting. So we went back, and originally the estimate that I had given you in the project proposed was concept number 3, which is in this packet here. Barry, I can email you this tomorrow.
Do we have any, this is part of the application,
I think it
right?
was part of the original one.
Yeah, let me see if I can find
I
it.
believe,
So we can see it.
Anyway, 15-second version is that the conceptual idea or plan, concept, I guess, just number 3, included the taking of our own parking spaces and building a gazebo and having an additional event space. Again, after discussion with Barry, Mr. Kessler, and some in-house discussions, we decided better not to take those spaces that we wanted and really desired with the acquisition of the building and the property itself. So we're going to forego that additional gazebo and that additional event space. And then if and when it's the wish of anyone, really, we can come back at a later date. But in an effort to, again, to pare down, try and save some money, and get this to about between 970 and about 985,000, instead of the 1.125. We're gonna go back to the original concept number 1, which you can see.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't find anything that had all these.
I will email you this in the morning, okay? So again, it's still a great project, still have most of the same details and features. Again, just the gazebo and a little bit larger event space.
When you say gazebo, do you mean a push area?
No, that's included. There's a gazebo, if you look at,
There's a gazebo there and one over.
Oh,
Yeah.
concept 3.
Concept 3.
Okay.
so again, still a great project, still a lot of great features, just not the extra square footage, if you will.
So
If we had the money,
That's
would
what
you
I'm
still
saying,
want
yeah.
to do concept 3?
Um,
I mean, we appreciate you taking the effort, because we really were concerned, as you may have heard
Yeah.
from some of the
Yeah.
questions tonight.
we didn't know how much money we had.
We weren't sure.
So we don't, quite candidly, the removal of some parking spaces,
Is a
especially some
concern, yeah.
ADA parking spaces, is a concern, and we want to strike while the iron's hot. The interior is almost complete, looks great. We kind of just want to roll right into the exterior, don't want to slow anything down. And again, it's nothing that couldn't be added or requested if it was the will or the wish of anyone there.
So instead of 1.125, you're asking for 9?
About 985.
Dwight, question?
And just from the committee's point of view, does that make us, given our situation, less likely to bond it at the lower number of the money we have? We were saying we were gonna bond possibly the higher number. Now that the numbers are changed, both in his application and in our amount of money, if I think, I'm just revisiting the concept of whether we're gonna bond it or not, when and if we vote for it.
I would prefer not to even consider bonding. I think we threw that out there because we didn't know we had enough money to do it.
If I may.
Yeah.
So that was also
Okay.
a question
Understood, yeah. No, it came out of the committee. It was-
Barry and I discussed over the phone a couple times. We discussed internally. We prefer not to ask for, this CPC, as you all know, funded is taxpayer money. Now, when I say we, I mean the town, this committee has the funding right now. Asking to borrow money was just not really something we wanted to do right now.
Last time we had this discussion, it was, we may not have enough money to do the project. Would we consider bonding it in order to have the money to do it?
Yeah.
I think, to Dwight's point, we're probably more comfortable that we have the money now. I was not in the back of my mind going to be a proponent to bonding. part of the reason I think I dug in so hard trying to find this money is I didn't want to go down the bonding route. And I just feel, for all of you, because it won't be me going to the finance committee and getting beat up over asking for a bond.
Yeah.
If we can avoid bonding it,
Absolutely.
we should not go down the bonding route.
Well, that, just, aside from that, is a 2/3 vote at town meeting too.
Same thing. Finance committee is usually harder on us, and then town meeting, there's a real question whether you get it through there as a bond.
Yeah.
That's the
So when I say finance, I really mean both.
2/3 vote.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it's legitimate concern, and I feel much better that we've got money and we can consider doing it.
So,
I don't mind going back to concept one. I think it always makes sense to push back on applicants and try to make sure we're really doing, because Paul's right, I don't think I had noticed as much about the ADA parking piece there, because now you got a crosswalk to go over to the ADA, and it kind of goes against one of the other priorities we had coming out of 2 years ago, public hearing, that we really need to be more considerate towards ADA type issues, so.
Isn't there a distance factor as well? Parking space to event
Uh,
location?
There's, so some of the factors include having anyone who needs to park in those spaces be able to come in the same entrances without much difficulty. So if we were to move them, the spaces, and a handicapped person, we may have to shift and do a ramp in the front door, we wanted to go in the back door, and these concepts, so those things were considered.
So basically you drop 140,000.
Yeah, yeah,
We've been pretty much
that's the
hitting-
long and short of it. I mean, we're trying to work with, there were some concerns from the committee, granted, not just financial, but other concerns, and we, we're gonna do the best we can with what we got, and I think not asking to borrow money is certainly a good step.
I mean, and I asked Paul to get a detailed budget, and he's working with the architect to get that. So, I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a good place. If you feel comfortable with the 985 number,
I
before
do.
sort of breakdown.
I do.
Okay.
So this 985 will handle all the exterior painting of the wood and wood structure and the steel columns and complete the outdoor area.
Basically the
Based on
concept.
concept.
Yes.
John, Lenahan?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that we all have to face the reality that whether it's this year or in later years, if we have a lot of really important projects that come before us, there's a likelihood that we're gonna have to start doing some bonding again. We're not eliminating our entire reserve, but close to it.
Right.
And so whether we bond this year or we face the facts that we are going to have to bond in future years for major projects that have great value for the town, it's not something we can just turn a blind eye to.
I would agree with that, John. It is gonna come down the road, but, right?
Well, that said, I propose that we accept the reduced application that Paul has made. I move that we vote yes on it.
So we have a second.
I second.
Rich Terry seconded. Any discussion, any additional questions?
You're good with this if we recommended
I
985,000?
am, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. If that-
Does the funding source get, with the article, included in the article, as far as?
Well, typically, we've been doing it in the motion as opposed to the article.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
But when you say the funding source,
Like, so we pay cash rather than.
Oh,
yeah,
cash.
cash, that should be part of this
Cash.
motion, that we pay 985 in
Sure.
cash.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And I think that's what you wanted, Dwight, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, any discussion, John Lenahan?
Yeah, I was just wondering if Paul could tell us how much it would be later on to add some of the things that we're cutting out, if we can add them back in.
So for right now, for today's pricing, just a phone call with the architects, take 10% off the original
Yeah.
construction. So say if you escalated that, I don't know, 3 or 4 years by, I don't know, 4% a year, whatever that turns out to be. I mean, say.
Yeah, I mean, it will be more, but
Right.
not.
Yeah, I mean, if we cut out 120,000 now, it would, in 4 or 5 years, you know, you're probably
Could be
over
150,
200.
could be 200, I mean.
Right.
It could be.
In reality, you also said you were cutting it out for more than just,
Right, so you could be doing something.
there are other issues to think about, so.
Right.
Yeah, there's more than just escalation,
Yeah.
it'd be,
Yeah.
you know.
Bob, you gonna say something else?
No, I was just gonna say, if you go back and look at it, you might wanna go in a different direction, and that might be more cost effective, and so, if you, like you said, if you're gonna do the 140,000 times, you know, let's say 8% for the next 3 years, yes, it's gonna cost more money, but if you go back and redesign it, come up with a different concept, and maybe not even decide to do it, or go in a different direction, it might be less.
Yeah.
So, I think you gotta look at it
Or we
both
might
ways.
get more for the same amount of money, whatever it is.
We're
it's-
constantly
But
always.
if we're comfortable with that,
Yeah.
does that answer the question, John? No?
Kind of. Well,
Well, the answer is we don't know.
I'm not sure there is an answer.
We don't know the exact number because we don't really have an exact breakdown here, that they said take 10% off.
Yeah,
We can say that it will grow, and it probably would grow close to 200.
and it'd be, because these are just concepts,
Yeah.
and not, you know, construction drawings, it's hard to really pinpoint a good estimate on it, and this estimate is really just a broad general overview. So I think we're saying the same thing, it's difficult to pinpoint exactly how many thousands of dollars.
If he could give you a specific answer, John, would it change what you're thinking?
well, it would make me potentially want to push back and go towards the full project as proposed.
Well,
I think, it-
I
you know,
guess-
the whole thing is, it's such a great project, and it's so important for the town. And I hate to be nickel and diming it if we have to come back later and invest really large sums of money to get what we were gonna get.
I think that's a valid point.
Yeah, I guess the point that we need to drive home is that it's gonna, this project, whether it's now or whether it's in 2 or 3 years, you know, the original proposed concept and application versus today, the square footage and the orientation of the
Space.
the event space,
Yeah, the
and whatever
layout.
it is, it has decreased, right? And that's a decision that was, you know, internally made, and a lot of factors, right? Political factors, ADA factors, things like that. So, you know, in order to go with the full project, I can't sit here and say that we need the money for the full project because we're gonna do that, because we're not gonna do that right now. We're just not, because of those factors. I hope that's, you know, that's just candid, and that's
Yeah, no,
what
I
it is.
appreciate that.
But we're not gonna, I guess we wouldn't put together a project that we couldn't add on to in the near future that looked like it wasn't part of the original project. In other words, we would make it blend right in and look seamless.
Let me ask this,
Okay.
other than the gazebo,
Yeah.
what other major components would not be included?
So, like, things that you may not even think about is like the demolition of the asphalt and regrading and stuff, and new planters, additional planters, you know, things like that, you know, $10,000 here, there, and here just keeps adding up. So so it's really, what I can say is we really just reduce the square footage and the scope, based on a square foot number, I guess.
Okay.
I have a question.
Rich?
I'm looking at event concept 3 versus concept 1. And aside from the gazebo and the fact that taking the parking spaces, I think there's what, 2 handicapped, which is required based on the occupancy, and then these other ones which are standard. Removing the handicapped in concept 3 across
Towards the bakery.
towards the bakery, which is the width of two lanes,
Yep.
the width of the street, 20 feet-ish.
Yeah, yep, give or take.
In concept 1, ADA parking, is there a door that they can come in on that side of the building in concept 1?
Yeah, if you look at, this, that door, it actually says ADA entrance.
Oh, I see, okay, yeah.
So that's a short walk from the ADA park.
Yeah,
And not across traffic.
No, and, you know, there's other factors like that the general public doesn't know about, but those parking spaces that you see there, like you say, adjacent to the bakery, if you will, those are ours. These parking spaces that we're speaking of are ours, but this drive aisle is not our property.
Right.
So easements, like just, there's, for right now, it's just not
I think, John, your question is really the same that I was getting at when I said, if we told you we had the full amount of money, would you want to go with number 1? And I think Paul's answer is, there's still some indefinite things here that they're buying time to decide maybe what is a better layout down the road. It'll cost us a little bit more, but I think we'll get more out of it.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
So you may be back here.
Yeah, which and I know, you know, this committee has said to me, always been great, if you need to come back and we'll talk about it.
I'd rather come back and talk about something than come back looking for more money because we changed the plans. I mean, I like where your head's at.
Yeah, and I would rather not kill the whole thing just because we're not
Right.
gonna do one portion.
Okay, any other questions from the committee? We have a motion on the floor, we had a second, we had some discussion. With that, I will take a vote, and I'll start online. Dwight and Karen?
Yes.
John Linehan? Is that a yes, you mouthed it? You're mute. Don Brady? That's okay, I can read your lips. Don Brady?
Yes.
Okay, Larice? Yes. Bob?
Yes.
Rich?
yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you, Paul, I appreciate you taking a look at the project and getting us to what should be a better overall
You know,
picture.
Really, thank you for
you
your
know,
explanation.
as always, thank you for having me and giving us the opportunity and hearing me out. Thank you, appreciate it.
And when you get the details from the architect, could you forward them to me?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you, have a good night.
So that was actually still our biggest project on the list. It was definitely one of the must-dos from last week.
Yep.
Another must-do was the housing project, and I know I saw Colleen online. I think that's our next biggest project at $800,000, down from $1 million. Any discussion from the committee? Any feeling to jump right to making a motion or a vote? Or John Linehan?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that, you know, she's hoping not to have to use this, right?
No,
No, you can
no, that's the Hebrew Senior Life.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I'm on the Housing Authority.
I mixed up.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
okay.
No, I'm in favor of it.
Okay,
So I will make that the motion, and I will move that we accept.
the $800,000
Second.
proposal, John Linehan second. Any discussion, any questions from the committee?
I'm gonna assume that these motions are all as cash, because we're not talking about.
Yeah, we should specify cash, but I think Barry's right. We can assume they're all cash. I think we made that a policy a couple of years ago, Barry, that our motions are automatically cash unless we specifically talk about bonding, just so that we don't have to interrupt ourselves as we go through the process. Okay, hearing none on the discussion. Dwight?
Yes.
John?
Was there a second on that motion, Bob?
John Linehan seconded it.
Sorry, okay.
John said
Yes.
yes. Dawn?
Yes.
Larice?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Rich? And the chair votes yes.
All right.
Okay, we have, let's see, I think Dennison was $650,000. I think
Next
that
one
was
by
one of
price
our.
is the soccer fields. If you want, I know that Eric Smith was going to try to get here around 8:30, 9 o'clock, so we could, if you
So,
want. Chris, I know Chris DiBiaseo is here. So Chris,
Yep, aye.
hi. Would you rather us wait until?
Chris, do you think
Eric
Eric
gets
will
here?
be joining? Not that we don't want to hear from you, but do you want us to wait, put,
I'm not sure, I am not sure if he's gonna be able to make it or not, so I defer to you how you'd like to proceed.
Okay. Well, why don't we,
we'll give him a few more minutes.
Yeah.
We'll do, I mean, I kind of went, the next one down the list was Dennison Athletic at $650, down from $850 originally. I think this was a must-do, or a should-do, I forget which actually, now that
no, I can go back to my
I'm
notes.
saying that.
Well,
Well, I don't know that it
I
matters, we
Yeah.
can.
I just want to make sure we cover all the must-dos maybe first.
Well, we're gonna cover them all, so
Yeah,
it
okay.
almost doesn't matter what order we're going.
All right, all right.
Anyone want to start a discussion on Dennison Athletic Fields?
What was the reduction? What changed?
It was up to, hang on. I don't know off the top of my head. It was higher than, we ended up at 600, it was 850,000. It's now
Yeah, but
650.
what changed? I think
He
Bob's
decided
asking.
to do just one field, I believe.
Just one field? Okay, thank you.
So we cut the project back a little bit, which phasing wise probably makes a little bit of sense, because you need to, so does anyone, John Lenahan?
Make a motion, we accept this proposal
It's $650 in cash.
for cash.
Rich Terry seconded it. Any discussion, any additional questions from the committee? Hearing none. Dwight?
Yes.
John Lenahan?
Yes.
Don Brady?
Yes.
Larice?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna go, I'm trying to think too who we got, but we got 500,000 for Hebrew Senior Life. I thought I saw Deb on the line. But does anybody wanna ask any questions, start a discussion on Hebrew Senior Life? As John just reminded us, this is one we all hope may not be needed, but we certainly don't wanna jeopardize such a great project.
I'd like to make a motion we accept.
Okay, Rich Terry has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Larice has seconded. Any discussion on Hebrew Senior Life Project?
Yeah, just, I know she had indicated that if she doesn't need it, but this is under the presumption that she would give us some type of detail analysis that would cover the $500,000. So I think when she originally came here, let's say the doors, she was gonna have 100 doors at $1,000 each, and because of the tariffs and stuff like that, now the doors are $1,500. So I think she was gonna provide us with if she needed that due to the cost. Is that something that was supplied, or is that something that's forthcoming?
It hasn't been supplied because we don't yet know that,
Okay.
but I think we did talk about trying to get as good a detail from Hebrew Senior Life, and they have provided a lot of detail about what's going in.
Okay.
Deb, are you still on the line? Is there anything you would want to say in response to that question? There's Eric Smith, Chris, trying to join, so.
Oh, okay, let me look at that.
So, Dean's still on the line. Good evening. We are evaluating responses from a couple of general contractors right now. And we've also received back today responses from debt and equity providers. So we have every intent of providing you with some detail to the extent we do need the funds. And, we will have that detail later in the winter.
Yeah, we
But
had
yeah,
talked about it, but
we absolutely intend to provide you with a breakdown of exactly how, if we need the money, how that money would need to be spent.
Great. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
thank you, Deb.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we have a
You're welcome.
motion and a second. Any additional comments from the committee? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. Dwight?
Yes.
John Linehan,
Yes.
Don Brady,
Yes.
Clarice,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you, Deb, and congrats, I guess, that's,
And did we specify cash on that as well?
yeah, the assumption is they're all cash, unless we specifically request bonding, because we kind of went through that a couple of years ago, and it just gets messy in our discussion, but yeah, we will keep them all cash. We did see Eric Smith join, we got Chris, not that we didn't want to hear from Chris, either one of you can tell us, but I thought if we were expecting Eric to join, it would be good to give him a chance to, I'm sure he would be happy if he called in and found out we voted and approved his project, even if he didn't have a chance to talk. But with that, Eric, do you want to talk, or do you want to leave the floor to Chris, or your call? No response.
He's muted.
Are you muted,
He is.
Eric?
Sorry about that. Yeah, do you want me to do an overview of the project again?
Nope.
Or just the adjustments that we've discussed since the last time that?
Well, actually, Barry, do you want to explain where we are with this?
Yeah, Eric put together a very detailed budget, which I'm pretty sure I sent around to everybody.
Yeah.
And what Eric and I had discussed was because previously we thought we were really, really short on money. We talked about extending the project over a 2-year period, which is actually something he came to us originally with that plan. And I was trying to work out in my head how we can go ahead and do that so that we can budget it for partially for fiscal year '27 and then partially for fiscal year '28. It will get built that way. I was going to put it in with a condition requiring it to be done that way. I don't think we would have to at this point, but that's.
Yeah, I mean, my concern with that would be splitting it, is we can't, we're voting on money to be appropriated out of the 2027 budget.
Right.
Whether it gets spent in 2027, 2028, or 2029 doesn't change the amount we're trying to appropriate. All of our projects, I mean, Hebrew Senior Life, the 1.3 million that we approved 2 years ago, I think, hopefully will get spent in 2026. I mean, that's just the timing of projects. Not a knock on anything, it's the way these things go, but it still came out of that budget, so splitting the project in half, we would run the risk that we'd have to come back later and ask for a phase 2 and not get approval from town meetings.
Well, that's what I wanted to avoid.
Right, and that's what you were trying to avoid, but I don't think that was gonna get us there. I don't think that was the will of the committee, even when we talked last month. I didn't walk away with the impression that we were trying to split the project in half, so. So we were looking, Eric, I guess the short of that is, I guess still back the 827,275. Now, Barry, does that number include any additional money that went in because we were trying to split the project?
It does, there's a little bit of.
But it
little bit
needed
of
to be in there
escalation.
anyway because of the 2-year time frame?
I would leave it in because it may end up being,
Yeah.
that will probably be when it would be built, am I correct, Eric?
Okay, so does
Well,
anyone?
I just asked Eric.
He said,
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
Well, no, that was Chris that nodded, because Eric's not, oh no, Eric's up there
He was
too.
up there.
I didn't see Eric nodded.
Yeah, I'm here. So we would, the way that the funding would work, so the 2027, when the 2027 funding was appropriated, we would use that for surveys and environmental review in the fall of 2026, and then we would use for field remediation in the spring of 2027. Then in the fall of 2027, which would be fiscal year 2028, that's when the second field would get remediated because we can't do both
Yeah,
at the same time. And just to speak, so the one that, you're right, the one downside, if we only did one, we would end up with one elevated field with a lower field next to it, which
would be bad news.
hurt me a little bit, yeah, that would be suboptimal. But it's gonna be like that no matter what, even if we go through with the project, because we would raise one side and then we would work on the
Yeah.
other side.
But we'll work our way through that. John Lennon has a question?
Yeah, so you would get all the engineering and all that stuff done in phase 1.
Yes, yep, and that would carry over for phase 2 too. Yep.
Right, thank you.
Yep, and just what Eric missed was our discussion before of the treasurer's report. Because basically, we have more money than we thought we had.
Yeah, we were able to confirm that we should have enough money to afford all these projects, Eric. So while we appreciate you taking another look at it, always a good thing to do, and I hope you continue to take a look at and make sure that we don't spend any money that we don't have to. And I think that's been your thought process all along as well. Any additional questions from the committee?
So just to clarify, we're doing the 827,275.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're doing it in cash.
Doing the cash in, and there's no time constraints that we need to put on that for sunset clause or anything else?
All of our projects have
A
a
3-year
three-year
sunset clause,
sunset clause.
which you can come back if you're running out of time.
That's a matter of policy that will be in the the memorandum of
The,
understanding.
well, no,
MOU.
actually, this is a grant agreement because it's
So it's,
not intertech.
whatever, it's,
Yes.
it's a three-letter
there's a-
thing.
There's a 3-year sunset provision, which you can ask, if you find you're at the end of that 3 years and it's not gonna work for you, you can come back.
Yeah,
and
it could
ask
be
to
extended.
to
We
extend
just
it.
wanna make sure we don't approve money and nothing happens.
Right, absolutely. Yep, that's what
We want to weigh out, because in our earlier years, we did approve a lot of projects that took a lot longer than we liked, so.
Yep.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion regarding this project?
I make,
Yep. Well, Larice and John
For the
second.
827 in cash? Okay, any further discussion, questions?
second,
Okay, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none?
It's 827, 725, I
Yeah,
believe.
275 is
275,
what I wrote
okay.
down, Barry.
Okay.
Or whichever you tell us. what the right-
827, 827, 725.
Okay, I wrote it down, yeah.
827, 275.
It is 275?
Yeah, that's what's on.
Sorry.
It is, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
No worries.
my mistake.
part of me wants to round everything off to okay, Dwight,
Yes.
John Lenahan,
yes.
Don Brady,
Yes.
Clarice.
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Rich. And the chair votes yes.
Okay, so it's unanimous.
Thank you, Eric, thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Well, this is only step one, you still gotta sell at the town meeting, but anything we can
gotta
do
go
to help
the
sell
finance
it, I
committee
think.
First too, and that's always fun. But yes. this-
But it's, no, it's
this is-
good,
this is the
this is
first
a
big
good
road.
project, and I'm happy that we can move forward with it. Let's see, I'm making a mess out of my sheet, but next up would be, pick one, Barry, I guess.
One of the, let's see, I think the next one in terms of dollar amount is Cedar Hill.
Cedar Hill, what was that? Was that
That was for
250?
250,000, was, yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, any discussion on Cedar Hill? I know John wants him to move the green a little bit to fit his swing, but that's not in the plan.
I'd like to say that.
No, I think it's going the opposite way.
Yeah. Rich?
I'd like to say that we should approve this because it's a money-making recreational facility. It's the only one that's in the black.
And as Victor has told us many times, a big part of the reason they're there is because we have made some investments in them. And yeah, I think it's a good project.
Yeah, so this is actually more of an investment than a giveaway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's turning dollars back to this town every day that place is open.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Okay, do we have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Rich seconds it. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Dwight?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Clarice?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. You're flying. Okay, 250, I have, is it 190?
I think
Oh,
that's the
yeah,
next,
the 190 on the Stoughton Bank loss.
that's the next one.
And now, we did have a follow-up from last month, and I believe Sudhir is still on the line. I hope Sudhir is still on the, yeah, he's up
Yes,
there.
I'm still on the.
And he provided, the biggest question we had was, well, two things. We went from the 255 down to the 190, because it was just not very clear to everybody what the extra tax district was gonna do. So Sudhir asked if we could at least go for the 190, and he gave us a breakdown of what would be encompassed within the 190. kind of following the format that the town used on the town hall project. My question on that breakout, Sudhir, is how did you determine the split on some of those things between what should be CPC, or CPA funded and what should be funded by yourself? And I know Barry included this in the package, but that wasn't clear to me in there.
Yes, so the only way I see is because I requested for 190, so I thought like that would be the approval that I might be getting, so the rest of the things that I put it on the owner's expense, because like I still have to do it, so that was the only split on that.
I'm trying to find, so for example, I'm looking at existing conditions, stopped on that page, and you've got a CPC, I can barely read these numbers, of, this is small, but you have $8,000 for the CPC and $18,785 for the owners, and that's broken down. You show the facade, some of the removal of the bricks and the chimney, but how did you determine what went in each column? That's what I was unclear of.
All right, can you put that on the screen?
I
I'm
can
sorry.
do it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd be,
Because I have the same questions.
in the next page is the masonry and facade restoration. The numbers are a little bigger there, but it's not any one specific number I'm asking about, it's more the process.
Right, then you come up with.
Is how did we split those two amounts? Like, looking at repoint brick joints, that's a fairly significant number. Total cost of $40,000, $25,968 for the CPC, and the owner pays $14,700. What's the basis of that split, Sudhir?
So this is the total cost that I got for a couple of quotes, so I was like trying to put that into, that 190,000, to get like, some majority from the CPC, and the rest, like, whatever the difference I was putting it on my end. That's the only thing, like, I mean, if I can get the whole thing, that would be helpful, but, since
but the
from
question,
last couple of meetings, I thought it was like, very strict budget and all that, so that's why, like, I kind of split it in this way.
yeah, but I think the question from the committee was, we wanted to see, you were asking for $190,000, and we wanted to see what you were specifically gonna spend $190,000 on that would meet the requirements to be funded by the CPC. So taking the 190 and breaking it down without knowing how you broke it down doesn't answer that question to me.
So you're asking how were the percentages determined between
Yeah,
the owner and the CPC?
it doesn't look to me like it's a straight percentage across the board.
Is it 40%, 60%, is it square footage, what?
I mean, the total was like around close to 400, so if you can do, like, I'm asking around 65% of the cost of the work.
Yeah, but you're looking at it, I think, backwards. We want to know how we built up to the $190,000. We need to make sure that it's compatible with the CPA eligible funds.
Can you go to the last page if you can?
Okay?
Hold on.
So this, like, and as you can see, I mean, this also includes some professional and contingency. If you take it out, the total cost is like, 314, and out of that, I'm asking CPC for the 190,000, and then the rest will be mine. Like, and those are the breakdowns that we put it in together. And if I take out those professional and contingency, that's like, I'm not putting in that, but if you like look at this total, it is 314,000 altogether, and I'm putting them like, in that way. Like, I know since I asked for 190, and I thought like, so that might be the approval, so that's why I broke it down, wherever the majority of the cost that I can get.
So yeah, maybe I'm not making myself clear, but why 190,000? Like, if you were buying antique windows to put in your building, and they added up to 190,000, and we looked at it and said, well, yeah, that clearly fits the historical allowance from the CPC, it would be an easy decision for us. just because it's 190 and you're throwing in 124 more doesn't help me understand whether or not this is eligible for the CPC. I need to know what the 190,000 is made up of and how we determine the 190 out of the 314.
So if you just go to the first one, you know, Barry, if you go up, you know, if I'm looking at that wall,
To the picture or the first?
no, on the first line that he had, I'm sorry.
Side?
Yeah. Like, how are you coming up with, of that demolition cost is $8,000, how are you dividing it into CPC, historical being responsible for the $2,389.33, and you being responsible for the $5,610.67? So is that a percentage, or is that looking at that facade that you're taking that cost and trying to refer to historical? I'm just having a tough time trying to understand here. Sorry. And maybe Dwight.
So this is, yeah, I think like, you know, along the process, like, you know, I was thinking, you know, when last year, when Excel submitted the preliminary report, like for 190,000, so we got some semi-approval. And then like I went to the couple of contractors and I got some quotes. And like, you know, that is like much more than what was initially requested. So my understanding was like, you know, okay, I might be able to get approval for this particular amount. So whatever the extra, like, you know, that over there, so I was just putting under the owner's cost and like, you know, and then, I mean, there is no particular percentage that I put it, but like, you know, I was trying to see if I can put up, you know, to total together to 190.
Okay, hang on, Sudhir, we got a couple of additional questions coming from Dwight and John. Dwight, you look like you raised your hand twice.
Sudhir, is it fair to say that this, all of these expenses are historical, and you're just asking the CPC for the 190 out of the total? Is that a fair way to put it, or something different?
Yes, that is exactly, that's fair. This is all related to the historical. And as I mentioned, like, you know, my assumption was like, you know, last year we got approval for 190, so I was trying to fit in that into this 190, and the rest I'm just putting in under the owner's cost. And like, you know, there is no exact percentage, but like, you know, I was thinking because some of the work has been done a little bit, like, you know, like for example, chimney demolition and so some of them. So that's why like I'm trying to see if I can get at least some portion of that from CPC and then, you know, majority from the owner cost.
Thank you, Dwight, that's a good question. So what your contention here is the whole 314 is work that's needed to preserve the historical nature of the building. And you're not asking for the whole amount, you're only asking for the 190 because you're looking for contribution, you aren't necessarily looking for the full amount. That does make a little bit of sense. Okay. John Monahan also had a question?
Yeah, I would say you guys help clarify things with your questions/comments. If we can slide down to the next slide.
This is the last page I'm on now. You want
Oh, maybe it was, yeah.
this one?
So I was looking at this slide and thinking, it looks like, you know, we've got repoint brick joints, and then we've got things like mortar removal. Isn't that part of repointing brick joints?
So there are certain areas where we just have a mortar, like, you know, that is also coming apart. So that's like, you know, this repointing brick is specifically to the brick part, and there is a complete, like, you know, I think 3 feet of mortar, like, you know, thing all around the base. So that's a you know, different job for that part.
Okay, well, you know, as I said, between Dwight and Michael, they help me better understand your approach that unfortunately you did with their questions. So I guess I understand better. If that is what you're standing by, that basically the whole project is historic preservation, and you're just looking to have us help you do that.
But to be fair, John, I don't think Sudhir is saying the whole project is historical. He's saying the whole 314, but this is just a piece of everything he's doing. If that,
Yeah, it's just, it feels random in terms of how the pieces have been put together.
Dwight, going back to your question, do all these line items feel appropriate from a historical point of view, that these are the kinds of things that would help us get to the historical preservation nature of the building?
Well, yeah, I'm not an architect, but in
Right.
terms, they all seem to have to do with the facade, the brickwork, the way the outside looks, so I don't see anything that jumps out at me as saying that it's not part of the historical piece. I mean, I think it's, if there were not being historical restoration done, I mean, in the worst point, they demolished the building, so this is in the context of maintaining the facade and the brickwork as it is, keeping the building there, and some of that is deemed to be historical. Beyond that, I can't really.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dwight, for that input. So the last piece that I would say, Sudhir, is the other, if we approve the project, we're going to need, kind of like the question we asked earlier of Deb, a breakdown that shows us kind of what you spent versus this 314, because to make sure the 190 makes sense.
Yeah, one of the things I had asked for today, which you didn't provide, you provided in the first version of this cost sheet, is the per unit cost. That was the last request I had pretty much, and I said, can you provide me a spreadsheet, can you show the per unit cost? You showed it originally, but this latest version just says the quantity and the total cost. Obviously, you can divide one by the other to get the per unit cost, but that doesn't explain why that would have changed from the first version. But obviously it had, because you've changed a lot of these, and seemingly arbitrarily. I noticed on some, you've just taken, and changed the shares to an even dollar amount, or changed them by an even dollar amount. And I'm not sure what the basis of that was.
I will provide you the full detail, the thing that I got from the contractors if needed. But like, as I mentioned, like my assumption was like I'm only getting approval for 190 or something. So that's where I kind of put together this thing. And in the initial, the first one I sent out was like, there was some calculated mistakes that happened, and that was showing that much more than what this was requested. So that's what like I had to adjust it to, put together within the, 190 and like all this thing. And again, this is like, I got quote for like almost 6-7 months back, like, things have changed, but I'm trying to request for this 190, and like this is all historical part, like I will provide you the whole documentation on like exactly I'm using it for just outside part, nothing is being done inside. The whole project, as I mentioned, like is costing me 1.7 in full, but this is just part of the historical outside, the brake facade and the windows, those parts of it.
Okay. Dwight had a question?
Yeah, well, I can see that, the per unit cost may not be that relevant, because we're not talking about the expenditure for each unit. We're talking about the facade, which may impinge on some of the units, but they're really, we're not doing it as housing for, per unit cost, we're doing it as historical preservation of the facade. So the number of units, I don't know, to me, how relevant that is.
I'm just trying to see if the figures are, if they're arbitrary, or what the basis is for them. That's all, that's the reason I asked for them.
John Lennon has a question?
Yeah, along the same lines, I was gonna say, it feels quite arbitrary, and I think it has a very good chance of being turned down at town meeting, because of that. So, to begin with, there's a strike against you in terms of, the town, not that I agree with disagree with the concept, that, if we want to preserve historic structures in town, we should help make that happen. But I think there's gonna be a lot of other people who are sensitive to putting town money into a private situation, and especially when the numbers feel arbitrary. And so this is going to need very strong justification.
John, when you say the numbers feel arbitrary, what numbers feel arbitrary? The total expenditure of 314 or the split between
No,
the
when
C?
you look at the line items.
Okay, like using the example of the
For example, lintel bucket cleaning, is that really historic preservation?
This is all part of the outside brick related work, like, I mean, if we are considering the outside brick is a part of the historic, like, you know, that's the thing, and then again, that's the reason why, like, I'm not even asking the whole amount, if you can see.
No, Sudhir, I would rather you ask for the whole amount on certain pieces rather than what looks like random, like getting rid of debris and old bricks, you know, the removal of that stuff.
See,
You know, there are a few things on here that you could, and this is my own perspective, get rid of, and others that, you know, are more justifiable as historic preservation.
another way of looking at it, John, because I think Sudhir put it into this format because we showed him how the town had done it on the other project. Maybe the better approach here, Sudhir, would be to simply list all these costs, showing a total of 314 and saying, I'm asking for 190 against this total expenditure. Because to John's point, when we see this breakdown, and I think we all kind of had the same reaction, it felt arbitrary how we were splitting it. But would that make a difference, John and Dwight, in your, Sudhir, hold on. Would that make a difference for you, John and Dwight, if we ignored this layout and just laid down 314,000 and said we're asking for 190 against it? And then we could say, okay, does all that 314 feel appropriate to preserve the historical nature of the building?
Yeah, depending on how it's presented.
I think showing it that way would be better for town meeting, for sure, because we would avoid the same confusion that, and in fairness to Sudhir, we kind of asked for a breakout, and he was trying to meet what we were saying. And maybe we weren't as clear, maybe he wasn't as clear. Dwight, question?
No, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, that the total amount and then the percentage of the total amount, if the total amount, everything can be shown to be historical, and then, or even most of it, given the fact he's only asking for 190, I mean, I think that's a better way to go.
Yeah. And that's easy to fix, because it's just a matter of changing the charts. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Anybody want to make a motion on this?
I move that we accept it.
Do we have a second?
I'd rather get more information, but. This is it?
We can ask for more, I mean, what I'd say at this point, since we're trying to finalize the list so that we can prepare a budget, we can put in a contingency that we will get more, and we could always then pull it off the warrant if we felt sometime between now and the end of January that we didn't have that. I think we could throw in a contingency for that. But I think I'd like to get to a point where we make a vote, yea or nay, to go forward.
So the motion is,
We have a motion to approve, to recommend the $190,000 in cash. We'll end up changing the spreadsheet, but Barry can work with Sudhir on that, but we need a second on the motion.
I'll second.
Rich Terry has seconded. Any additional conversation? Hearing none. Dwight?
Yes.
John Linehan?
It's on you.
He took.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, preliminarily, yes.
With this contingency, Don Brady?
Yes, with the contingency.
Yes.
The
So
Reeves?
let me just, hold on for a second. I want to go back to Dwight. John, Dwight, do you accept that contingency as part of your motion?
Well, should we
Yes.
can we be more specific on what that contingency is? We
Yes,
want
we would need to do that.
a better breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, if he has an estimate that he took from this to fill the spreadsheet out, that would be helpful as well. And, yeah, the opposite way of, like you said, to.
Just look at the total and say how much we're asking for.
Right, yeah, so.
Yeah, and maybe a little narrative to go with it, that clarifies to some degree the historical, you know, how, what the historical aspect is and how this fits in, just some narrative that clarified that, and it would be good for town meeting too.
Absolutely.
Just
So,
say,
yeah, that-
here's the historical part of the building, here's what he's doing.
That's a good suggestion, Dwight. And Sudhir, that's why we talk through this stuff when we ask these questions, because in part, we want to make sure we're making a good decision that we can then defend, although you'll be making the case to town meeting. We want to make sure we help you make the best possible case.
Yeah, something to
So-
the effect as well is, you know, all costs associated with this are for historical, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like you said, you're looking at something where someone might say, well, you're throwing out bricks, is that really historical, or whatever the case may be, but any of those expenses,
Yeah, and I think your consultants could help you
Expenses.
with that narrative as well, Sudhir.
yeah, and that will get you, I think.
And even including, you know, illustrations of just what the front of that building looks like with the pillars and the classic view that everybody sees as part of the town, somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming in with, you know, saying that's historical and here's what we're doing right in that historical facade that you see there.
Right.
Yes,
I
Sudhir,
will put together the presentation.
this is the easy part, getting this committee to move. Town meeting is a challenge, and we're really just trying to help you resolve.
Well, you'd have to get through finance committee first, too.
Well, when I say town meeting, that includes the subsidiary committees. I look at it all as one process, just broken down in steps. So let's go back. Dwight, you're okay with the vote? Yes, with the contingency? John was okay, Don's okay, Larice, Bob,
With contingencies, yes.
Rich,
Yes, with the contingency.
and the chair votes yes.
Okay.
So, thank you, Sudhir. I hope you don't feel like we're being too difficult for you, but
No, definitely not.
we are trying to make sure we are town meeting and committee ready, because we're there too, and it's our reputation, if you will. We want to make sure we're doing what's right by the town, so, anyway,
Yeah.
we're all done
Quick
there.
question before I don't mind. So when do I need to provide these contingencies or like, you know, the detailed report or like, you know, breakdown or is there any certain timeline?
Yeah, I've got to get everything into the town by the end of this month. And I'd like to have it ready a week before that. Well, actually, that's Christmas. I'd like to have everything by December. Let me take a look at my calendar.
Today's the 3rd, 2 weeks will be the 17th.
Hang on. 2 weeks from now would be the 17th. Yeah, by the 17th, 2 weeks from today. So we're looking for a narrative regarding the historical aspect of the building, quotes to back up the prices that you're presenting, and
And get rid of the split on every
Yeah, get
line
rid of the
item, because
split.
that adds more confusion than it's worth. Now that we understand it,
Right.
that didn't help.
Right. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else that we need. Okay. All right, so if you get
Can you
that-
get that in 2 weeks, Sudhir?
Yeah, definitely I will try to.
Yeah, I would think with your consultant and,
Easily, yeah.
Very easy.
yeah, that shouldn't be that
It
hard.
should not be difficult.
Okay, so with that, the project is approved, as stated. Thank you very much, Sudhir. And what do we got left on our list, Barry?
And we have, we'll have Reggie's
we got-
$20,000.
we got
That's the lowest one.
Okay, we'll do that.
What about-
20,000, yeah, we get, the order's not too important anymore. The town record preservation, I think that's a pretty straightforward project.
I move that we accept it.
Thank you, Dwight. Do we have a second? Marie seconded. Any discussion, any questions? Hearing none. Dwight?
Yes.
John Lenahan?
His voice changed.
We'll come back to John. It sounded like he left the room and someone else. Don Brady?
Yes.
Larice?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Rich? And the chair votes yes.
So, go back to, oh,
For
John,
$20,000 in cash, and John Linehan?
Oh, yes.
who made that motion and who seconded it?
Yeah, I'm so.
Dwight made the motion,
And
Larry seconded it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So we did that there.
Just
All right,
before we
and-
move on, I,
Okay,
there are a couple of things actually, because this motion reminded me of it. We do have issues with, that we need to also resolve. We also still need a historical commission support letter for this project, as well as for the railroad depot. We're also waiting for a letter from Mass Historical on the railroad depot. So Dwight's raising his hand.
okay. Dwight?
Yeah, so we have to have a historical commission meeting before the next time, and then we will take the official votes on the train station. And I believe we already did it on Sevier. but-
No, I don't have anything.
Well, I thought they did
If
on-
you did, it was last year. And there
They
was a-
did on the 190, because the
From
discussion
last year.
last month, right, but they did, was that they had never gotten to the 255, which is why we cut it back, but I think on all of these projects, there should be, even retroactively on our motions, the contingency on the historic, that we have that, because that is a requirement of the CPA. And I think Barry's saying, Dwight, if you could cover all three of them?
Well, I think there's two that we don't have, which is the community center and the bank. I think everything
Okay.
else we've gotten, you've given me the information on this. I've gotten I've gotten the recommendation on the pumper truck and on,
Yeah, well, we can reaffirm the 190. I think we already did, but if you don't have the letter, the next meeting.
Yeah, then let's
I have
reaffirm it,
nothing.
just to make sure we're all up to date.
yeah. and the other-
Appreciate it,
The
thank
other
you,
thing I'd like
Dwight.
to do on, and I want to go back to this, on the community center, is they still have an outstanding, we supplied the money for the town to purchase that building. And we need to, under the law, we need to have a historical preservation restriction. So I would like to also make that a contingency that gets done.
Yeah, great, thank you for bringing that up, Barry.
I
Do you know
have-
what he's saying, Dwight? It's not a historical commission question.
No,
Yes, well, that because the Historical Society was supposed to be the person holding it, and that never fell into place in time to be relevant to this last project. We had agreed that we would do it. It's just the i's never got dotted and their t's crossed.
So we should make that explicit as part of this project, that gets done. In other words, they've got to work that out before they can get the 985.
yeah, and I've.
This has gone on way too long.
Just so you know, I've got a complete draft done. The town can change it if they don't, if they want to make changes. But I've done.
Yeah, and I think
I've
Dwight
done
has
this-
reviewed
I've got
that
an
draft,
application, it's
right?
all filled in. I can give that to them. If they like it, it won't take long to get that,
We brought this up a couple years ago, and Tom Carlton got a little excited by, don't do anything that will mess up my getting this $2 million grant from the state. And we said, Tom, we're not trying to mess that up, but we are reminding you that the town has a legal obligation to put this restriction in place. Some of it's kind of covered in the deed because of the way it was written from the railroad station, but we're just trying to dot the I and cross the T there. It's a town obligation, not really a CPC, but if we don't push them, it'll never
the
get done.
CPC
so.
obligation
Right, and
is
you
to
can
have
see
the
the
historic
complexity that
preservation.
would have come up with the paint thing, where our tendency would have been in the beginning, you say, well, no, you're altering the way that looks, but then a further study would indicate, well, it had been painted in the past, so the train station would have turned out to be more complicated than we thought, basically because of the paint, so, but we still should hold a restriction and make them more relevant, know that they have to come talk to us, which they've sort of sidestepped.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
on those lines, I did talk to Paul Jaffoon a couple of weeks ago, and I did mention that although they have the Mass Historic Commission did approve the project, they've now added another component, and I'd like to get their approval on that as well as a contingency.
Yeah,
So I'd like to add, so in terms of contingencies, let's just take them one at a time. For Sadia's project, we need a support letter from the Historical Commission. He's going to provide us a budget that is actually a simplified budget, because it won't
we won't try to split everything.
It won't try to split every individual line item by his cost
Right.
and.
And a little bit of a
town's cost.
narrative explaining what the historical work is being done that makes it a little clearer to anybody looking at it, why all these line items are part of the
Right,
historical.
why does it qualify for historical
Yeah.
funds?
Right, and just the part about needing a historical commission's letter of recommendation, that is in the application, that's not something we need to vote on, it's already established policy.
Yeah.
So, so for the town, for the railroad station, I'd like to make sure that we do a contingency, that they have to, hang on, let me, bear with me for a second.
And what complicated before was they got the grant from the state to
Yep.
do this last job, so it didn't come from our money, so it kind of went around CPC.
Right,
Well, that
and
doesn't
supposedly
matter.
went through Mass Historical, or not supposedly, they talked to Mass Historical, but it turns out Mass Historical might not have been as concerned with some of the historical pieces on the inside that Dwight would have been.
Right, I understand that.
And-
Where, this project is for the exterior.
Right, and they will be more concerned, but,
And Mass Historical did approve the original application for the exterior, but the paint part of it came up after that, so I told Paul I'd like another go-ahead for Mass
Yeah.
Historical, including the paint. Hang on a minute. So what I'd like on the historical preservation restriction, that has to be filed with the Registry of Deeds as a condition of approval. And like I said, it's pretty much ready to go.
John Lenahan has a question?
Sorry, more of a comment, and I'm just thinking, somebody mentioned it earlier. You know, it might be nice to have a picture like this with arrows pointing at the various components that are historic preservation, that sort of blends with the budget. You know, just to make it clearer to not only us, but town meeting.
Yeah, no, that is good advice. Is Sudhir still on the line?
I didn't, no, I just checked and he's not.
No, he,
No, okay.
so Barry, you may want to cover that off with him when you talk about the revised budget.
Let me write that down.
But we can always ask him to come in to a future meeting before town meeting and say, hey, we really want to, work this through, because
Right, it's only in his interest.
it's in his interest, and it's tough enough getting it through
Basically, we're
a 9-person
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah.
Exactly, I think that was the point I was trying to make to him.
Yeah, we're trying to coach.
You're going to town meeting, you got 168 people that are gonna be,
Yeah, I will communicate that to Sylvia.
Okay, Dwight, were you-
101.
Dwight, were you all set before? When you asked?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm asking for is on the, we're all set on Sudhir, because the other thing he needs that we didn't mention is part of our application, so, and he knows he needs that.
Yeah,
But I'd like to make clear on the town hall that we're adding contingencies, hang on,
on the community center.
on the community center, sorry about that.
I'm reading mine.
Let's see, letter of support from the Historical Commission,
Dwight's on it.
both the local Stoughton Historical Commission and the Mass Historical Commission. The historic preservation restriction filed with the Registry of Deeds. And I'd also like to make a condition that if the project changes significantly from what we've seen so far, that they come back to us and get our approval for that before spending the money. That was a problem in the past, I'd like to avoid it going forward. So,
Makes great sense.
Yes, I mean, and I think our process today is a little tighter than it was in the past, we've got people coming in every 3 months or so, and we can make them come in every 2 months if we feel the need, so.
yeah, but I'd rather have it
But put
not
it in,
be after the fact.
put it in
than
a
have it rather be before
contingency
the
and
fact.
remind them constantly.
Yeah, so if anyone needs to, Dwight, I think you made the motion on the community center. Hang on. Yeah, you did. So I'm asking if you'll accept those contingencies as a friendly amendment.
I do.
Okay.
And I think everyone else does. Do you want us to vote on
Let's
it
vote
again,
again.
Barry?
Yeah.
John Lenahan, do you accept those contingencies?
Yes.
Dawn? You were
Yes.
muted, yes, okay, thanks, Dawn. Luis?
Yes.
Bob? Rich?
Yes.
And I accept them as well, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, boom, boom, boom. I think all that's left is the antique hand pumper truck.
Yes, yep. We heard from Joe McCrisky tonight.
Anybody want to start a discussion on the hand pumper truck?
So
If not,
this is something that's going out for auction, is that what he was indicating tonight?
No.
no, he's looking for bids on the work.
Bids on the work, okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be restored, just the
He had
same as
one
they
price
did
for
for the
150.
1928 fire truck.
Okay.
They own it already. And he'd
Oh,
like,
I'm sorry, I'm getting that mixed up with the hand pump.
This is the hand
It is
pumper.
the-
Okay,
It's in
okay.
the hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, it's the old 1850s wagon,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
originally horse-drawn,
A
later
pump truck.
drawn by
Okay.
some very strong people who, I guess, weren't afraid of getting run over on the downhill.
Yeah, I remember the pictures, yes.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's, so, any further discussion on this? Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion if we accept his proposal for 150.
Do I have a second? We have a second. Do we have any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Dwight?
Yes.
John Lenahan?
Yes.
Don Brady?
Yes.
Luis?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Rich? And the chair votes yes.
Okay,
So,
Great. yep. Quicker than I thought it would. So that's, we have recommended everything unanimously.
we have recommended everything unanimously. What was the total, Barry?
The total,
4,000,000
bear with me for a second.
5 something?
4,512,275.
Excellent.
Could you
Thank-
repeat that, Barry?
Sure, 4,512,275.
And to belabor the obvious, your treasurer's report at the beginning had a huge amount, changed the whole tone of what we did, so.
It absolutely did, and I have to thank Michael for
That
doing
that was kind of
work.
why I did it, because
4.5.
I had the same concerns I think everybody had last month when I was
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at the numbers saying, I kind of felt we would have the money, but I'm like, but I gotta be able to show them we have the money. I don't blame anyone for being a little skeptical, and we got there. We got there, and this is, I mean, I think 9 projects is probably the most we've ever recommended to town meeting. The amount, $4.5 million is definitely the most we've ever recommended to town meeting, and I feel pretty good about the process we've gone through, the discussions. We've had a couple of very long meetings over the last couple of months. I don't know if at some point you want to relook at that schedule and say, hey, you know, this June, we can't, well, although, in the future, John Lenahan alluded to this earlier, you get $4 million of projects next year, you're gonna be sitting here talking about bond council, because we're not gonna have $4 million anymore.
We'll be talking about the golden age of Michael Perry.
As long as you talk nicely, I'll be a happy
No,
man.
no promises.
Okay. Next on the agenda,
Administrator's report.
let's see,
You want to do a chair's report?
will you have a discussion on warrant articles?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that entirely. Yeah. Yeah, I drew up warrant articles, draft warrant articles, and sent them to everyone. They were at the full amount, which I think we just approved. So,
Well, the Colts one probably changed, or was that?
oh, I'm sorry, no, Colts, I put it as the full
Okay,
amount.
you had it in there as the full amount.
Yeah. So it's for discussion. Well, actually, it's not just for discussion, because I need to submit them by the end of the month, and if we don't meet between now and then this is our only chance. So does anybody have any comments or questions on the articles? And if you want, I'll put them up on the screen.
Probably a good idea,
You know,
because,
can we take a 5-minute recess?
yes, we can.
I am ready.
Okay, so we got CPC articles, and the first one is the budget. The wording is what we do every year, updated to FY
Yeah,
2027.
let me put it up on the
Let's put it
screen.
on the screen and run through these as quickly as we can. The number here could change, or is this the number you worked up?
Hang on a minute. Let me go back to it.
It was too convenient.
That can change. Yeah, that number may change. It will be in the ballpark, but then that may be the number, but it may change.
Yeah, well, I threw out, when I talked about this morning, $1,150,000 plus $150 for the state. We talked about we should put 200,
Yeah, actually,
250 in for interest.
It will change because I gotta add in the interest, so
And if you
yes.
do that, whatever the number comes out, you'll have. And-
Yep.
and-
If you want, I think I may have it, hang on a minute.
Well, no, I think, I would
It's
leave the number wording more than
the
blank.
number.
It's
It
the
will-
wording, and
Yeah.
until you fill out the template and talk to Dawn and submit.
Oh.
Oh, you can't hear us right. Well, we can't hear you.
Can you speak, so we see if we can hear you?
Well, he can't hear us asking him to do that, but.
Oh, that's right.
Can any of you guys on virtual speak to Dwight?
Yeah, hang on, let's, hang on.
But I can see the
I'm
CC.
trying to
Can
do
you
two
hear
things.
me?
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes.
can hear you now.
Can you
You
hear us?
can't hear us.
Okay,
Can you hear us? No,
No.
no, I don't know what happened.
no.
Okay. I don't know. Don't know what happened.
I'll just read the captions.
John Linehan, say something. Dwight, can you hear John?
Can you hear me?
No.
You can't hear anybody.
You-
Do you want to hang up and call back in?
well, Let me,
Well,
somebody else, I'm trying to do
can't hear
something
me
else.
ask the question.
Wait a minute. Let me text
He's
this.
ignoring you.
It's the opposite of the night we had that, but Dwight could hear somebody else, John, but we couldn't, and it was you.
I could hear Dwight.
But no one else could.
Right, so I had to ask his questions, it was kind of funny. But the problem I had was with the speakers, it defaulted to, usually I have a default speaker, and then for whatever reason it switched, so, ain't nothing we did that, okay.
I'm going to try my other computer.
Okay,
Oh, wait.
so Barry, my suggestion would be you and Dawn work out the full budget schedule
Yeah.
and then put that number.
Yeah.
I don't know that they truly, do they need the final number for
No,
December, the
I don't
wording?
think so. But if you, the number I have right now is 1,430,000 because we added in more for interest.
Yeah.
We added in 200,000 for interest.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, you don't have to go the full 300, because I would hope by 2027, we'll see interest rates come down a little bit. But I'd rather have something in there than nothing.
Yeah, well, and something else must have changed because it's not just that. Okay.
Well, I think the 1, 2, 3, 4 here was as Bob said, you just typed that in before we had that conversation this morning.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that was just a number.
Yeah, but it's not.
I didn't pick up on the sequence and that Bob did.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's fine.
that's fine. This is, and the language is the same language we use every year.
Yeah, so I don't see any issues with it.
Okay.
Um,
And this is historical, so I want Dwight to see if he can participate on it.
Did we already vote on the town records?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did it in the middle of everything.
I think that was the one when you were on a break and you came back and said yes. Didn't know which one we were voting on apparently, but. Almost like using an auto pen.
I wonder, wait a minute, there's an arrow on Dwight's screen. Is that from that mouse?
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it was, okay. Oh, okay, he's gonna reconnect.
Reconnect, he's left the meeting.
So let's wait for Dwight.
Now, the motion is where we mentioned the category and the,
Right, on the budget you're talking about.
and, yeah.
Oh, on everything,
No, no, on
actually.
everything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and Biz did say, okay, here's Dwight again.
Yeah, Biz wants us to specifically
Mike, can
name
you hear
people
us?
who are responsible.
Well, now we can't hear you. Oh, you're muted, that's why. Okay.
You're muted, Dwight. Dwight, can you hear us?
But we can't hear you.
We can't hear
You're
you.
muted.
We can see you talking. There you go.
Okay.
There we go.
Hey, all right, two-way communication.
Okay, so we kind of looked at the CPC budget article, which is the same wording that we use every year, dated to 2027. That should be good.
And the
number
number
will
will change
change.
slightly.
Then we have the town records preservation.
Yep.
We just voted $20,000. That should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I'm concerned with the language. This one's pretty straightforward.
Okay, Barry, you walk through and address what your
Sure.
concern is with the language.
Yep, on Cedar Hill, what I said is a sum of money to fund the renovation of Green Number 1 at Cedar Hill Golf Course. I don't think we need to do anything more than that on the motion. And again, there's a drafts, they may change
Yeah.
when people outside of this committee have input. On the low-income housing from Stoughton Housing Authority, I said a sum of money to support the construction because we're not funding it entirely, we're just
Yeah.
putting in money to support the construction of eight units of new low-income housing located along Drake Avenue and Memorial Drive, which are intended to replace 7 older housing units owned by the Housing Authority scattered throughout Stoughton. And again, the other thing I should probably do is run these by the proponents and see whether they are in agreement with the language as well, once we approve it tonight. Okay, and the Dennison Complex, a sum of money to fund the renovation of 4 athletic fields at the Dennison Athletic Complex. Said renovations to include construction of new dugouts, including protective chain link fencing, concrete pads and shaded roofs and sides, plus new chain link backstops. That's the basics. There may be more details, but those are the basics. The pumper truck, sum of money to fund the restoration of an antique hand pumper truck from the 1850s, which was originally used by the town when purchased new. Dwight, I think I'm going to mute you because I'm getting some feedback. Okay. All right, back to the articles. Okay. And this one will change because we're adding contingencies, but this is the town community center to fund the historic exterior renovation of the Stoughton Community Center, formerly known as the Stoughton Depot Building at 45 Lyman Street. Set a renovation to include exterior trim painting, landscaping, expansion of ADA parking, new public seating areas, as well as a gazebo, and that's going to come out. Courtyard event space and new planters. And what I will do is I will add in the contingencies.
And change the amount.
And change the amount. Very good, yes. All right. Colts soccer fields, some money to support the rehabilitation of the Colts soccer fields on West Street. Said rehabilitation to include wetlands permitting, the engineering and construction of drainage improvements, creating a stormwater pollution prevention plan, regrading and resodding, replacement of 4 soccer goals. I'm sorry, that's a comma there. Regrading and resodding, comma, replacement of 4 soccer goals, and replacement of sprinkler heads as needed. And I did get the total right on this. And Hebrew Senior Life, a sum of money to support the construction of an all-affordable senior housing complex on the corner of Canton and Simpson Streets. And Stoughton Bank Lofts, and again, I shouldn't need the contingencies because I'm going to have everything from him by the 17th. But to support, because we're not paying for the whole thing, to support the historic preservation of the bank building at 810 Washington Street as part of its conversion to new residential and retail space. Said preservation to include repairing and repointing brickwork and cleaning and stabilization of the exterior facade. And the last thing is closeouts, which we really haven't talked about. Some of them we've already approved. What I will do, if I can, I will leave it open so that any closeouts that happen after the submitted can be added to it. But if if they can't, they'll just go with
Yeah,
the.
I don't agree with those amounts that are there. I don't know where they came from, but
Hang on.
the 66,000 and the
No,
2,000,
that's 66,000 is wrong.
I have different numbers. In fact, in my presentation tonight, there's a number that I think you can use. It should be that funds available.
Okay.
But whatever, or the closeout form should
Oh, no,
have,
you know what, those are dummy numbers, see how it's
Okay,
66, 11111? Those are dummy numbers.
it's like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, all right.
Okay,
Sorry.
well, whatever, you'll get the right numbers and have, I
Yes.
mean, we had closeout forms in those, didn't we?
Yeah,
Or
we
did
did,
we?
I just
Okay,
didn't
so
want
whatever
to
the
do it.
numbers are, you'll
And I didn't
update
bother
them.
putting it
And
all
what
in
was
one
the
big
total,
folder.
543 there, that,
I
You
just
changed
I
it to
changed it. I don't know
TBD.
where that number came from.
okay, is
Probably
that supposed
copy
to
and
be the
paste.
total of the closeouts?
No, the total of the closeouts that we have at this point that have been approved is 63,697.56, and that includes the railroad station restoration, which
Okay,
is
can you
very,
send me that schedule, or send it to the whole committee, whatever the,
I will, yep, and that was approved by us on the 3rd of September. There's
those are the ones that Biz knocked out on us in
Yep.
October, yeah.
Yep, the design phase of the Dennison Fields, there was a balance of 74,8057, we approved that in February. The design phase of Marks Field, balance of 204635, we also approved in February. The OSMS storage equipment, the figure I have is 226108, we approved that in September. And Elm Street Fields, I have a balance of 51,909.56, which we approved at our last meeting on the 17th.
Now, those numbers should agree with
And I should have checked it. I did
page
not.
9 of my presentation tonight, where I had the sum of funds available. So double check that. That's what I would look for, because that number includes expenditures through FY 2025, so we should be okay. If there's a slight difference, we can work, I mean.
Well, some of them, if there's a slight difference, it may be from, actually, there shouldn't be any difference. Okay, funds available, I'll just check right now.
They could be different if there was money spent after June 30th that's hitting fiscal year 2026, because we haven't seen anything out of Munis for fiscal year 2026 yet.
And that's the case of, on the OSMS.
Yeah,
survey.
I mean, that, I can understand why they'd be different from this report, but that's gotta be an invoice that was paid in 2026.
That's the only one that's different, all the others are the same.
And that's gotta be an invoice that we haven't even addressed that yet in terms of, we need information for 2026 from the town.
Yep. Actually,
Okay.
I'm not sure whether the business signed off on that one yet, I think she may, yeah.
Double check it, but let's include them and get them in here, that's, okay. Chair's report, we don't need. Treasurer's report, we had. Administrator's report.
I do have something on the
Okay.
administrator's report. I've been working on the CRs for Benson Road and for Atkinson Ave. I submitted them both to the Department of Conservation Services. They acknowledged receipt. On Benson, I've gotten some feedback, and I think John was in the loop on this, where they wanted the trails narrowed to a more reasonable, not something you could drive a semi-truck through. And we had copied and pasted the parking from Atkinson, and obviously there's no public parking planned for Benson. There is for Atkinson, so I took that out. And, the other thing was wildlife habitat. And John did check with Paula, the original owner, and she emailed us a very comprehensive list of all the wildlife that she's seeing there, and I incorporated that into the report. And the other thing was that it's a, I think it's a watershed protection district as well. So I updated those. I sent them into the changes into DCS, and I'm still waiting to hear back. I have not heard any feedback on the Atkinson one, but I figured let's get one done first before we start confusing ourselves with all sorts of changes, unless people think I should just do them both at the same time.
Do what you think is best to get them done, because
Yeah.
you got a lot of work in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, if I don't hear from them, I'll go back
Right.
to them again and find out what's up.
Which means nothing after tonight.
And that's it. I don't have any minutes. I'm working on other stuff.
When I say you got a lot of work, that's now, there's a lot of work on that one line. It's very time consuming and nobody does them like Barry, but, okay.
I did work on them, but I didn't finish them.
Are there unanticipated new business or emergency matters? I know of none. I don't know if anyone else has anything they think needs to be.
Our next meeting will be on January 7th then, and unfortunately, without Larice and Michael, and I just want to thank them for all the contributions that they've made. This will be their last meeting. And
I may join in just to watch a couple or.
You're the last, you were a member of the original.
You're the original.
Original group.
Yeah.
Dwight too.
Dwight and Maurice.
Yeah, John Morton.
John Morton.
Joanne was on. We had that list last year, the year before town meeting. I added it to the thing. We think we covered everybody that had ever served, but, I mean, I was surprised at one point, I found.
there was a name of somebody that nobody
Stanley
heard
Zoll.
of.
Stanley Zoll.
Oh, Stanley Zoll, right.
Very short.
Very short, yeah,
Very short.
but I found reference to him leaving the committee. I'm like, I didn't even know he was ever on.
Yeah, I think he did.
One or two meetings.
Meetings, yeah.
Okay. 14, we've said it over and over. I mean, I've enjoyed my run here, guys and girls. Met a lot of good people, and I feel like we've accomplished a lot, especially through tonight and what we're going to town meeting with. I mean, this has been an exciting year just to see some of these projects come to completion. The baseball fields, Father Bill's, Halloran Park, I mean, and some of the things we have lined up as game-changing for the town. Hebrew Senior Life, and even the railroad depot.
Yeah, yeah.
New playground down at Hanson.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I feel great about what we've accomplished, and I thank you all for putting up with me as I dragged you through a lot of number presentations that I know none of you really want to hear, but, you know, I wanted you all to feel good that we are in fact in a position to do this stuff. And we still have some money, and
That was invaluable in terms of what we had to
And I'm
accomplish
sure
tonight.
people listening in on these various requests would say, oh, good, this is really good. As boring as numbers can be, this was good.
it's there, and I hope I made it clear enough, because, and as I said, a lot of times I get these reports, I dig through them, and I'm like, and I know we got an issue, and I've got to find a way to make it understandable and get over, because as much as I'd like to think you all would trust me almost whatever I said on these things, I don't want blind trust. I want feedback to help me make sure it's right, because I don't necessarily believe it's right just because I looked at it. There are things you find, and a lot of times Barry and I talk through the stuff, and it helps.
Yeah, just this morning, I asked him where's,
Balance today. I haven't heard that term in a long time. And I'm not.
Now, but again, Bill never used to Bill used to give me the Munis report, the KBS report before that. Biz, the first thing she comes out with is the trial balance. And it is invaluable, and it should agree with the CP2. Just, we're still working with it to get it there. But anyway.
yeah, and I was gonna say, just this morning, I asked Michael, he gave me some figures that, on the budget, and I wanted to know where they came from. And he explained it to me, and
I hope I walked him through it on the spreadsheet, because Dawn and I will probably have to talk about that spreadsheet and the budget at some point. Just, Dawn, you've got my number, you've got my email. The spreadsheets, I was glad we had the conversation with Dawn a couple weeks ago, that he's very comfortable with Excel, he's very comfortable with the accounting side. He may not be as comfortable with PowerPoint as I have become, but that's okay. That makes it pretty, but it's the meaning, if you can get the data out and explain it, that's the key to it.
And Don,
And
I'd like to set up something with DOR, so I just hang on at the end of the meeting, and we'll talk about what we can do.
Yeah, much to Bob's question earlier, that don't wait till the spring. Let's see if DOR will come in and help us with that, because this is, again, it's 3 years in a row the CP2's gone out wrong, and we deserve better, and the town deserves better. I mean, I think they're filing it last minute, there's a lot of cleanup they're doing, I can kinda understand the dilemma they get into, but,
Yeah. Well,
hey, you know, we
one
got
that
a
was
lot of
written-
money, we were trying to, and we had the luxury over the last few years that we had more money than we had projects. We're just about out of that luxury, folks, because,
Or the one that was originally, CP2 that was originally filed this year, was basically just used as a placeholder, but not,
yeah,
the
and
numbers
that-
were not
that's,
checked. And it would have been helpful to us if we had known that, so that we're not looking at it and scratching our heads saying, where did these numbers come from?
the opposite of that, though, is that if I had known that it was only a placeholder, I might not have dug in quite as much as I did, so we might not have gotten to where we are. I took it, and fortunately, I have enough knowledge and comfort in what I'm looking at to push back and see if this, I just don't buy what you're telling me, and
Well, and yeah, and that's how we found that they hadn't credited us with $300,000
Yeah.
of interest that went to the wrong department.
And, using the general funds for that project, that one kind of scratched my head as well.
yeah, that was, I wasn't looking for that, but again, as I dig through the detail and I saw the trend, I understood what they're doing,
Yeah.
not sure why they would do it that way,
Yeah.
but it's the, as I said, it's the opposite of what they did to Rich's project a couple of years ago that caused a lot of confusion, but I'm gonna stop talking, let Dwight finish, and then we'll ask for the best motion of the night. Dwight, you're muted.
Yeah, I want to, lend my support to our new chairman, Rich Terry, and Rich, anything I can do to help out, ask me, but welcome aboard and, good luck to all of us.
Thank you,
Yes,
and I'm
yes.
not afraid to ask questions. I help.
Yes, and I work hand in hand with the chairman, and, I think it's, I've had good chairmen to work with in the past. And Rich and I have worked together.
Well, the first time I ever spoke to the gentleman, he called me up on the phone, and I never answer the phone when I'm working. I was having lunch, I picked up the house phone, and he said, how come you haven't been answering my emails? This is like 4 or 5 years ago. And I said, I answer all my emails. He had an old richterry@aol.com that I had abandoned, and I was using richterry.capenfarm@gmail.com for all my stuff with the farm. And our conversation went from he's angry and I'm surprised to I'm not avoiding anything. And that was the beginning of a nice friendship.
It's gone uphill since then.
And he returns your emails.
And got us a great dog park and community gardens, and now the chairman of the committee. So, with that,
Anything I can do to make your chairmanship easier also.
Thank you.
Motion to, I'm prepared to make the big motion.
Yeah, right.
go for it. Who seconded? Someone's got to second it, Clarice. She really wants to get out of here. Dwight? Dwight?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Clarice?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And my final vote, yes.